Chapter 198. Bei Yunj could not answer for a moment. Huashidu asked again, "You don't want to tell me?" "No." Bei Yunj pulled up her hood and covered most of her face, revealing only her sharp chin. She slowly turned her head away. "I only found out today." Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at Bei Yunj. The tip of his throat rolled and he let out a soft laugh. He did not ask further. This child was really difficult to control. The next evening, Bei Yunj went straight to the Liu family. At the Huo Corporation. In the office. "Master Du, Miss Pei is going to the Liu family today. Aren't you going to take a look?" Tsing Su probed carefully. "I've prepared a gift. Just send it over." Hearing the man's words, Guasu's eyelids twitched. "Then why did you keep texting Miss Pei today? You just want Miss Pei to ask you to accompany her." Guasu cursed silently, but he did not dare to show it on his face. Suddenly, a glint flashed across his eyes and he quickly said, "But the Yu family will go. President Yu's appearance will definitely cause another commotion." "Commotion?" Huashidu raised his pale eyes and looked at him. His slender fingers tapped on the table casually. "It's just that, many socialites will think of ways to get close to President Yu." In the past, Tsing Su had always attended those banquets on Huashidu's behalf. He naturally knew how popular Yu Hanran was to those socialites and young ladies. As long as there was competition, these young ladies who claimed to be of noble status would inevitably be jealous. And people like Bei Yunj, who did not know the socialites in the circle, were the easiest to be ostracized. After a while, Tsing Su saw that Huashidu did not speak and said, "President Yu knows Miss Pei and will definitely go up to greet her. When that time comes, Miss Pei would become a thorn in his side." However, before he could finish speaking, Huashidu interrupted him. "Tell Yu Hanran to know his limits." Huashidu looked up. His tone was light and lazy, but for some reason, it was suffocating. At this moment, even Tsing Su did not react. He had not finished speaking. Why was Master Du so unhappy? Suddenly, he regained his senses and looked at Huashidu with a complicated gaze. "President, you couldn't even greet Miss Pei. Wasn't Master Du being too strict with him?" In the Liu family, the scenery of the garden was pleasing. The lamplight and candlelight reflected each other's brilliance. The fragrance of clothes and the shadows of hair shadowed the surroundings as they chatted and laughed. "Jiao Jiao, you're finally here." Ling Jiwei was wearing a dress that had been specially prepared for her. She looked delicate and charming. "My legs, to thank you so much to come all the way here." Qin Youjiao sat in the wheelchair and looked at Qing Zihuai, who was pushing the wheelchair, with a sweet and shy expression, "SSS2s to mais to as to. Of course, it's of her T.S. Qin Youjiao had just finished speaking when suddenly, someone put a suit jacket over her shoulders. She turned around and saw Qing Zihuai smiling as he said, "The wind is so strong. Don't catch a cold." "Aren't you being too biased, Senior Qing? I'm wearing less than Jiao Jiao. Why aren't you draping it over me?" Ling Jiwei teased. "Jiao Jiao is weak." Although Qing Zihuai said this, his gaze was gentle as he looked at Qin Youjiao. Chapter 199. "Tisk, I'm just strong." With that said, Ling Jiwei said enviously, "In the past, I always saw Jiao Jiao and Senior Qing quarreling. Now that I can see the two of you being so sweet, I'm very happy too." At this point, Ling Jiwei suddenly thought of the person in her class. She changed the topic and laughed coldly. Lest some scheming people think of ways to be the third party. Hearing this, Qing Zihuai's eyes darkened and he did not clarify. Actually, he had deliberately approached Bei Yunj back then to make Qin Youjiao jealous. although he knew that Bai Yunj had always had a crush on him. Qin Yojiao sized up the people around her casually. Okay, stop talking. Bai Yunj will be here today too. Her. Ling Jiwei's eyes widened and she could not help but laugh coldly. What right does she have to come? Is this a place she can come to? Bai Yunj was completely incompatible with their circle. Which socialite would be willing to interact with someone like Bai Yunj? My father went to look for Bai Yunj. Qin Yojiao's eyelashes fluttered. She was wearing a long white dress and looked pitiful. Uncle Qin is too kind to let Bai Yunj do this. With that said, Ling Jiwei suddenly thought of something and looked at Qin Yojiao excitedly. Oh right, Jiao Jiao, did you know? The Yu family will be here today. Yu Hanran. Qin Yojiao's eyes flashed as she remembered that Yu Hanran and Huashidu had gone to the Qin family last time for Bai Yunj. She clenched her fists unconsciously. That's right. However, there's also the eldest young miss of the Yu family. I heard that President Yu has a very good relationship with Miss Yu. Ling Jiwei was still eager to try. Her excitement could be heard in her voice. That's the Yu family. A true top aristocratic family. How great would it be if I could be friends with Miss Yu? Miss Yu rarely appears at these gatherings. She might not like to make friends. Although Qin Yojiao said this, her thoughts were the same as Ling Jiwei's. If she could make friends with Miss Yu, her status in the circle would also rise. It would also solidify her identity as the eldest daughter of the Qin family. At this thought, Qin Yojiao also comforted herself. Yu Hanran was obviously not familiar with Bai Yunj, and that Mr. Hua, even if he really wanted to protect Bai Yunj, it was just out of interest. Bai Yunj couldn't get close to the Hua family at all. At this thought, Qin Yojiao heaved a sigh of relief secretly and said gently to Ling Jiwei with a smile, however, if you want to get to know Miss Yu, I can help you. Really? Jiao Jiao, I told you, you're my best friend. Ling Jiwei was overjoyed. Meanwhile, on the way, Yu Hanran walked in front expressionlessly. His handsome face was dark. You Manran, you're getting bolder and bolder, aren't you? You've been in the entertainment industry for a few years and you're still a D-lister. How dare you challenge me? Unable to take it anymore, he turned around and looked at Yu Manran, who was wearing earphones. You're the D-lister. Yu Manran exploded. Yu Hanran smirked and said mockingly, among all the girlfriends I've had, there's no one worse than you. Yu Manran couldn't take it anymore and dug out the hot sales of his new album. Did you see that? I'm already starting to become popular. I'm #1 on the half-year chart. Chapter 200. Yu Manran took a deep breath and looked at him with a fake smile. I haven't asked for money from my family for several years. Oh, you've been in the dark for so long. Yu Hanran raised his eyebrows. Fortunately, you were strong-willed back then and didn't choose to expose your identity. Otherwise, our Yu family wouldn't be able to afford to lose this face. I can't be bothered with you. I'll stay for 20 minutes today. Yu Manran was so angry that he didn't want to talk to him. He rolled his eyes and said arrogantly. She didn't want to make friends with those arrogant people in the industry. Each of them was more annoying than the other. If I find out that you're gone when we leave the banquet today, don't blame me for buying over that lousy company of yours. Yu Hanran also laughed angrily, not wanting to continue talking to this annoying sister. He glanced at Yu Manran with disdain and suddenly thought of the little girl beside Huashidu. The way she called him older brother softened his heart. It was no wonder that Master Du liked little vixens so much. Who wouldn't like them? Yu Hanran, how dare you? It's good to change it to a square park, Yu Hanran said faintly. Yu Manran was speechless. Brother, I was wrong. Seeing Yu Manran admit defeat, Yu Hanran snorted and deliberately messed up her hair before he stopped and left. This be asterisk starred. Yu Manran gritted his teeth and entered the banquet in his high heels as if he was here to seek revenge. On the marble ground of the garden, there was a grand piano. Qin Youjiao was carried to the piano cushion by Qing Zihuai in public, causing many young ladies who were familiar with Qin Youjiao to be envious. "I'll listen to you play from the side." Qing Zihuai smiled and said gently. Qin Youjiao nodded with a red face. "Okay." It was only after Qing Zihuai left that Ling Jiwei bent down and whispered into Qin Youjiao's ear, "Miss Yu is already here. I heard that she's very interested in piano. Jiao Jiao, we'll have to rely on you." Hearing this, a smile appeared on Qin Youjiao's face. She only played the piano keys casually and nodded. "Don't worry." She would seize this opportunity to make the young lady of the Yu family interested in her. Soon, the sound of the piano gradually rang out. It was an unfamiliar tune that he had never heard before, and it was especially eye-catching. Everyone turned to look at the girl in a white dress who was playing the piano. Her appearance was elegant and refined, leaving a deep impression in one's mind. In the next moment, even Yu Manran, who had just arrived at the banquet, was stunned when he heard the skillful and pleasant sound of the piano. She was attracted to the sound of the piano and saw the person playing it clearly. Qin Youjiao was indeed worthy of the title of a young pianist and was indeed a talented young girl. However, at this moment, the first person that Yu Manran thought of was Bai Yunj. At the same age, Bai Yunj's creative ability was already astounding. There were even well-known musicians in the country who took the initiative to contact the composer after hearing her new song. All of this proved that Bai Yunj's terrifying strength had yet to be fully displayed. This person was still a mystery. Yu Manran stared at Qin Youjiao, his thoughts already starting to blank out. She was faintly looking forward to the scene of that person personally playing the piano. How shocking would that be? Before the piano music ended, the person who had just entered had already quietly sat on the swing in the corner. She leaned against it lazily, her expression languid and arrogant. Her black hair, fair skin, and red dress made her look extremely beautiful. Chapter 201. Bai Yunj glanced at Qin Youjiao, who could be vaguely seen in the distance. She then leaned one hand on the handle of the swing and supported her head. She looked free and unrestrained. Even after the piano piece ended, many people's eyes were still unable to move away from Qin Youjiao. Their expressions were either stunned or envious. "Miss Yu!" Ling Jiwei shouted. When she saw Yu Manran's face clearly, she was stunned. The young lady of the Yu family was that Yu Manran from the entertainment industry. Why didn't anyone expose this matter? "Who are you?" Yu Manran looked at the uninvited person and frowned slightly with displeasure and coldness. Ling Jiwei was slightly uneasy and nervous. "I heard from a friend that Miss Yu likes music. I didn't expect Miss Yu to be an artiste." Hearing this familiar conversation, Yu Manran was not interested. She crossed her arms and looked at Qin Youjiao not far away. "That young lady is not bad." Hearing Yu Manran praise Qin Youjiao like this, Ling Jiwei's eyes flashed and she was full of smiles. "Yes, her name is Qin Youjiao and she's the eldest young lady of the Qin family. She even had a piano concert tour before and wrote all the pieces herself." With that said, Qin Youjiao had already been pushed over in a wheelchair by Qing Zihuai. "Wei Wei." Qin Youjiao called out to Ling Jiwei before her eyes landed on Yu Manran. "Is it Miss Yu? You played well." Yu Manran looked at her. Hearing this, Qin Youjiao tried her best to suppress the smile on her lips and said with a smile, "This is my new piece for this year's piano tour. If Miss Yu is free, you can come and listen to it." Because of Qin Youjiao's piano skills, Yu Manran was indeed not as uninterested as when he first came to the banquet. Qin Yojiao had also pulled herself into a relationship with Yu Manran intentionally or unintentionally. At this moment, Ling Jiwei suddenly spoke, her tone gloating. Jiao Jiao, that person isn't here yet. Could it be that she's afraid? Qin Yojiao laughed. Why are you mentioning her all of a sudden? Then, Qin Yojiao said casually, she hasn't been back to the Qin family for long, so it's normal that she doesn't know anything. Yu Manran had been in the entertainment industry for many years. How could he not hear the superiority in Qin Yojiao's words? She smirked and her interest in Qin Yojiao immediately disappeared. Even if she's talented, she can't compare to you, Jiao Jiao. Ling Jiwei deliberately smiled and said, other than Miss Yu, no one else can compare to an outstanding person like Jiao Jiao. Are you talking about the new miss from Jiao Jiao's family? A few socialites who knew Qin Yojiao came over and giggled. One of them deliberately asked, Jiao Jiao, how long has it been since she returned to the Qin family? Why didn't you change your surname back? Hearing this, Ling Jiwei couldn't help but sneer. Jiao Jiao is so young, but she won the first prize in the piano competition. She's the youngest winner in history. In terms of talent, who could compare to Jiao Jiao? If someone like her has the same surname as Jiao Jiao, it would be too much of a stretch. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao furrowed her eyebrows as well. She did not want to keep mentioning Bai Yunj in such an occasion. Not everyone could be compared to her. But then, before Qin Yojiao could interrupt, Yu Manran suddenly lifted his skirt and walked towards the grand piano. This scene confused the socialites who had just treated Bai Yunj as a joke. Miss Yu, what are you doing? Ling Jiwei was confused. As for Qin Yojiao, her smile froze when Yu Manran sat in front of the piano. Chapter 202. Yu Manran played a few keys simply. Not long after, a piano sound that was different from before attracted everyone's attention. On the other hand, Bai Yunj, who was leaning against the swing, looked up and said, "Follow me." At this moment, everyone present was fascinated, but Qin Yojiao's expression did not look too good. From the beginning of this piano piece, it had already tickled people's hearts. The main melody of the piano was clearly vicissitudes of life and had a grand style, but the secondary melody was healing and joyful and romantic. The seemingly contradictory rhythm was compatible, but it sublimated the mood of the piano piece. This kind of score often required very difficult skills to play. And the composer was even more open-minded. His control of the tune and rhythm was like a stroke of genius. After the performance, Qin Yojiao felt like she had been slapped in public. Her expression was ugly, but it was full of smiles. Miss Yu played very well. Which famous composer did this score come from? Qin Yojiao could tell that Yu Manran did not know enough about music scores. But this score itself was very difficult to play. It was probably a famous pianist the Yu family had invited. Otherwise, they would not have done this. Not only Qin Yojiao, even the others wanted to know who the person who could make such a score was. Originally, when they heard Qin Yojiao's piano piece, they thought that it was already rare. However, they did not expect that the moment Yu Manran played the score, the former became a bland soup. A famous composer. Yu Manran chuckled and glanced at the socialites who had stepped on the high and flattered the low just now. This was written by a girl about your age. I only played a simplified version. With that said, everyone present was shocked. About the same age as Miss Qin. Is she a god? I've learned piano for so many years and only now do I realize that I'm here to make up the numbers. I thought that Qin Yojiao was already very good at this age. Why is there a big boss now? I don't know music, but it's really nice. The discussions around them started to question Qin Yojiao's talent, making Qin Yojiao feel like she had fallen into a quagmire for the first time. She took a deep breath and tried to sound as calm as possible. May I know who she is? There's no need for that. After Yu Manran finished speaking, he smiled mysteriously. Miss Qin, you are also very powerful, but you have to admit that there is always someone better than you. She could only play the simplified version of the music score in an orderly manner. But if that person were to personally play the original version, it would definitely be a shocking scene. All of a sudden, Yu Manran really wanted to encourage Bai Yunj to go to his concert and play the original song. That scene would definitely explode. However, when Qin Yojiao heard this, she could not smile at all. How could she not tell that Yu Manran had a bad impression of her now? Miss Yu, I understand if you don't like me. Qin Yojiao clenched her fists and said with a generous smile, but I'm afraid it's a little hard to believe that such a song was written by someone my age. The meaning of these words was obvious. She was questioning the truth of Yu Manran's words. Miss Qin, do you think that if you can't write it, others can't write it either? Chapter 203. With that said, the entire venue fell silent. Although there were many socialites who played the piano well, no one dared to say that they could play 1/3 of the piano piece just now. This score was too difficult to control. At this moment, Qin Yojiao smiled as well. Miss Yu, I didn't say this on purpose. But there are some things that sound ridiculous. At this moment, many people agreed with Qin Yojiao's words. Such a piece did not seem like it could be written by a person in her teens or 20s. If that was the case, then she was too talented. Yu Manran looked at this hypocritical face and gritted his teeth in anger when he heard this. Then she laughed coldly and looked around, wanting to find Yu Hanran. No one knew that Yu Hanran had a strong memory for music. Usually, after listening to a piece once, he could play it perfectly. But at this critical moment, Yu Hanran actually King disappeared for her. Yu Manran's expression darkened. At this moment, Yu Hanran had unknowingly walked to Bai Yunj's side. He was interested. Miss Pei, can't you tell that that silly girl is speaking up for you? He was not standing far away just now and had heard the discussion of the group of girls. Yu Manran was still the same as before. He even defended people he didn't know. President Yu, you don't even care about your sister. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows, a faint smile in her eyes. Hearing this, Yu Hanran did not expect this little girl to guess his relationship with Yu Manran. That score is quite difficult. Yu Hanran's tone was teasing. Why don't you call and ask Master Du to support you? He's very good at the piano and violin. He also wanted to see how important this little girl was to Master Du really. I'll listen to it in the future. Bai Yunj's eyes were presumptuous and flamboyant, but she was bright and charming, making people dazed. Hearing this, Yu Hanran only understood after a while. This little girl only liked to eat alone and did not want others to hear Huashidu play the piano. Yu Hanran was speechless. This little girl's possessiveness was quite scary. However, before Yu Manran could continue speaking, Bai Yunj slowly stood up when he caught a glimpse of Yu Manran's face turning red. She casually straightened her skirt and walked into the crowd. However, Bai Yunj's reaction also surprised Yu Hanran. What was Bai Yunj doing? Could it be that she could play the piano? After obtaining this understanding, Yu Hanran still didn't dare to be sure. It was not that he had not checked Bai Yunj. In Hingda High School, Bai Yunj was the epitome of an ignorant and incompetent troublemaker. How was this the obedient girl who would be influenced by art after class? Miss Yu, do you know anyone at the banquet? Qin Yi asked with a coy smile. Qing Zihuai, who was standing behind Qin Yojiao, also looked at Yu Manran coldly, thinking that he was deliberately finding trouble with Qin Yojiao. Even if Yu Manran's gaze was cold. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. Yu Manran. The moment he finished speaking, Yumanran's eyes lit up when he saw Bei Yunj. She never thought that she would meet Bei Yunj here. However, after that, she felt inexplicably guilty. Could it be that Gu had seen her playing her song and fighting with someone? Yumanran's tone was weak. Chapter 204. At the same time. Everyone subconsciously followed Yumanran's line of sight. In an instant, a trace of amazement flashed across their eyes. The girl who walked over had black hair and fair skin. She was wearing a long red dress with a V-neck and thin straps. Her waist was tied up, outlining an extremely high-class sexiness. She had a pair of soul-stirring eyes. The smile in her eyes did not reach her eyes, but she was languid and charming. Which family's young lady's appearance was real? At this moment, a trace of strong jealousy flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and her eyes darkened. These two people actually knew each other. Soon. Qin Yojiao said with a smile, "Is she the only friend Miss Yu knows on the show?" Yumanran could not help but look at Qin Yojiao, his eyes dark. Where did this elder young miss get her sense of superiority from? Didn't she know that she had already shown off in front of the big boss? Yes, she's the only friend I know on the show. Yumanran chuckled and said indifferently. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao gritted her teeth and clenched her fists unconsciously. She had just said so much to Yumanran, planning to make Yumanran one of her own. But now, she found out that Yumanran was actually willing to be friends with someone like Bei Yunj. This woman was really crazy. Not only Qin Yojiao, but Ling Jiwei and the rest beside her also had ugly expressions. Ling Jiwei gave a fake smile. Miss Yu, were you deceived by Bei Yunj? What's so good about her that you want to be friends with such a person? Hearing this, Yumanran's eyes turned cold. This gaze made Ling Jiwei inexplicably afraid and she avoided his gaze. A person who's worth it is worth it everywhere. Yumanran raised an eyebrow and chuckled, but the coldness in his eyes did not disappear. Hearing this, Ling Jiwei's expression was ugly, but she did not dare to offend the Yu family. Suddenly, Qin Yojiao spoke. Since that's the case, it looks like you can definitely help Miss Yu prove what she said just now, right? Bei Yunj's lips curved upwards as her gaze landed on Qin Yojiao. Qin Yojiao, leave some leeway for yourself. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao thought that Bei Yunj was threatening her and could not help laughing. Yunj, if you don't know how, then forget it. I don't think Miss Yu will blame you. Qin Yojiao's intention to drive a wedge between Bei Yunj and Yumanran was obvious. Bei Yunj turned her head and looked at the pitiful Yumanran. The corners of her eyes twitched slightly. Suddenly, Bei Yunj. Qing Zihuai had an impatient expression as he warned coldly, "Don't embarrass the Qin clan." Qing Zihuai, there are so many people here. Can't you say something human? Bei Yunj glanced at him lazily and said unhurriedly. You. Qing Zihuai's handsome face darkened. Did this woman really think that it was so easy to enter the Hua family? She was actually so arrogant. Bei Yunj ignored him and walked towards the grand piano. She lifted the hem of her silk dress slowly and sat by the piano. 1/3, right? Bei Yunj's red lips curved and her slender legs were crossed under her dress. They were so fair that they were dazzling. Just sitting in front of the piano was a type of charm. Yes. If I can prove it for her, will you apologize to her too? Bei Yunj asked. Of course, but if you can't prove it for her, then apologize to me on behalf of Miss Yu. Qin Yojiao did not hesitate. Even she could not do this condition. Sure. Bei Yunj snorted and her slender fingers slid across the black and white keys. Chapter 205. Does she know what kind of honor Jiao Jiao has received since she was young? Ling Jiwei could not help laughing mockingly. Hearing this, Yu Manran snorted coldly and stared fixedly at Bai Yunj. She had never heard Bai Yunj play the piano, but how could someone who could write such a score play badly? At this thought, Yu Manran's eyes became more and more expectant. After that, under everyone's watchful gazes, Bai Yunj's slender fingers danced. However, from the moment the first key fell, Qin Yojiao's lips twitched and the sarcasm in her eyes was not hidden. She thought that this Bai Yunj had some confidence. However, she did not expect her to play the first key wrong. She had really overestimated her. Miss Yu, the song Yunj played seems to be very different from the one you played just now. Qin Yojiao was very confident in her professional field. Yu Manran furrowed his eyebrows, not quite understanding what was going on with Bai Yunj's song. However, she did not think that Bai Yunj had played it wrong. Did she play it wrong? The style is too different. The people around started to discuss. Yeah, I can't tell what's the same between these two songs. Didn't we agree to repeat the score just now? It's nice, but this is completely different from Miss Yu's song just now. At this moment, Ling Jiwei, who was beside her, also had a mocking expression. She could not help laughing and saying, I really thought that she could play a few notes. I didn't expect her to dare to show off when she doesn't know anything. It sounds nice too. The socialite beside Ling Jiwei said softly. So what if it's nice? Ling Jiwei immediately turned to look at her and laughed coldly. She didn't write this song. I wonder how long she practiced to reach this level. Hearing this, the socialite beside her was speechless. But she had a feeling that this song was a little familiar, at this moment. Yu Hanran stood not far away as he watched Bai Yunj play the piano. A hint of surprise and amazement flashed across his eyes. He thought that Bai Yunj really didn't know anything. He had hidden it too well. This time, Master Du has really picked up a treasure. Yu Hanran chuckled. Soon. The sound of the guqin gradually stopped. Bai Yunj glanced at Qin Yojiao, his lazy voice slightly playful. Miss Qin, isn't it time for you to fulfill your promise? Hearing this, Qin Yojiao found it ridiculous. Bai Yunj had the courage to ask her to apologize even though she didn't make a single sound right. Bai Yunj, we're not deaf. Do you think you've hit the right note? Qin Yojiao's eyes were filled with sarcasm. Even Qing Zihuai, who was behind her, looked at Bai Yunj with disdain. Yes. Bai Yunj, don't go back on your word. You should be the one apologizing to Jiao Jiao. Ling Jiwei immediately chimed in. She felt as if she had vented her anger. Suddenly, a voice sounded not far away. She didn't play it wrong. Hearing this, everyone looked at Yu Hanran instinctively, not understanding why he would say this. She used the secondary melody of the music score to adapt it. The first and last parts were played in reverse. The moment Yu Hanran said this, the smile on Qin Yojiao's face froze. The rest of the people were even more stunned. Played in reverse. So, not only did this girl play it correctly, she even changed the tune on the spot. Impossible. Ling Jiwei's voice was sharp and ear-piercing. Chapter 206. How was this possible? Even Jiao Jiao said that this score would be very difficult to learn. How could Bai Yunj be able to play it after listening to it once? Not only Ling Jiwei, even Qin Yojiao's expression was exceptionally ugly. She stared at Bai Yunj with dark eyes. Impossible. Back then, when Bai Yunj had just returned to the Qin family, she had deliberately tested Bai Yunj's ability. Not to mention the piano, she was clearly someone who couldn't even understand music. Miss Pei played the entire song. She repeated exactly 1/3 of Man Man's song. Yu Hanran smirked lightly, but he was even more confused about Bai Yunj. He could barely remember the score just now, but if he wanted to play it as easily as Bai Yunj, he would need at least a week to practice. In the end, this person even changed it on the spot. At this moment, Yu Manran immediately understood. Her changed it on the spot. Did she think that it was unfair to repeat the score she wrote? At this thought, Yu Manran looked at Bai Yunj with a complicated gaze. However, with changing it like this, it seemed to be a slap to Qin Yojiao and the rest's faces, although, looking at their expressions now, it was really satisfying. Impossible. You must have learned this score secretly long ago. You did it on purpose. Ling Jiwei lost her composure and said sharply, before she pointed at Bai Yunj and Yu Manran. You're friends. You must know Yu Manran's score too. Yu Manran was speechless. How could he not know? She was the one who King wrote this score. Bai Yunj laughed carelessly. There was no guilt in her eyes, but they were bright and charming. Hearing this, a glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes. However, in the next moment, before Qin Yojiao and the rest could heave a sigh of relief and were about to ridicule Bai Yunj, Bai Yunj suddenly played the piano again. Within half a minute, Qin Yojiao's face gradually turned pale and she felt cold all over. *CK. Isn't this Qin Yojiao's song just now? You can repeat this after just one play. Amazing. Is this the new young lady of the Qin family? How ruthless. Of course. Do you know who raised her? Principal Lin Longjun. Wait, who are you talking about? Lin Longjun. That Dean Lin of Yunqing University. Damn, didn't we agree to go to the orphanage? Yes, the orphanage opened by Director Lin. She was truly the heaven's chosen one. To think that he would encounter Dean Lin Longjun after being left behind. Who could be as lucky as him? I don't think I have the chance to listen to Miss Qin's music score, right? Bai Yunj repeated the score that Qin Yojiao had played just now without missing a single detail. This scene caused goosebumps to rise all over their bodies. Even Qin Yojiao might not be able to do such a thing. In an instant, Qin Yojiao's back was filled with coldness as she stared at Bai Yunj with dark eyes. Only Mrs. Qin and Qing Zihuai knew about this score. It was impossible for Bai Yunj to know about it. So, Bai Yunj didn't know how to play the piano at all. She had been pretending all this time. Bai Yunj, were you lying to me before? Qin Yojiao stared at Bai Yunj darkly. I thought that Miss Qin wanted me to play it so strongly because you knew that I knew how to play it. Bai Yunj said lazily. Chapter 207. If she did not go along with Bai Yunj's words at this time, everyone would think that she was deliberately making things difficult for Bai Yunj. Qin Yojiao gritted her teeth secretly. After a long time, she took a deep breath and forced a smile. I didn't expect you to be so good at the piano, Yunj. Hearing the discussions of the people around Qin Yojiao and Bai Yunj, Ling Jiwei could not help but speak up for Qin Yojiao. It's not difficult to arrange the music. That score is good to begin with. It won't be bad no matter how you change it. She's just being opportunistic. Then why don't you try being opportunistic? Yu Manran, who was beside her, said slowly. Hearing this, Ling Jiwei wanted to say something but stopped herself, her face flushing red. She bit her lip, not daring to really anger Yu Manran. Okay, this matter ends here. Qing Zihuai glanced at Bai Yunj with slightly dark eyes. Indeed, he did not expect Bai Yunj to know how to play the piano, and she was not worse than Zhao Zhao. His tone slowed down. Zhao Zhao didn't mean to make things difficult for you. There's no need to embarrass anyone in public. His meaning was obvious. Qing Zihuai planned to protect Qin Youjiao and not let her apologize. Hearing this, a smug smile appeared on Qin Youjiao's lips as she glanced at Bai Yunj provocatively. So what if she won? Zihuai was still on her side. Yunj, don't misunderstand Zihuai. Don't be unhappy because of this, Qin Youjiao bit her lip and said. Hearing this, Yu Manran was in disbelief. How could there be such a high-level green tea? Then, Yu Manran laughed coldly, putting on the airs of a spoiled young lady with ease. I don't know if Gu is happy or not, but I'm not happy. Miss Qin, don't forget. The person you promised to apologize to just now was me. Hearing this, Qin Youjiao's expression froze. Bai Yunj, what do you think of this? Qing Zihuai suddenly asked. He had been staring at Bai Yunj. This was the first time he had lowered himself to talk to her. If it was in the past, Bai Yunj would have been so happy that she would not care about anything else. I think it's better for you to shut up first. Bai Yunj spoke slowly and Qing Zihuai's face turned ashen when he heard this. Bai Yunj, you. Bai Yunj did not even look at Qing Zihuai as he said unhurriedly, President Yu, your sister is being bullied. Aren't you going to do anything about it? Yu Hanran, who was about to watch the show, this girl was really too vicious. She treated others as tools and used them so skillfully. Yu Hanran had no choice but to step forward and walk to Yu Manran's side. He glanced at Yu Manran. Before Yu Manran could feel touched, he sneered. Yu Hanran was still flirtatious. He raised his glass of red wine to Qing Zihuai and looked a little negligent. He raised his eyebrows and said, a child of the Qing family. Qing Zihuai moved his lips but did not speak. This person's aura was a bit similar to the person from the Hu family. Although it was not that oppressive, it still made him feel a little uncomfortable. Yu Hanran's smile did not reach his eyes. Although I don't like to use my status to suppress people, Man is my family's only elder young miss after all. If the Qing family finds out that you slapped the Yu family's face in public for a little sister, will they be able to sleep? Yu Hanran gave people the feeling that he was a smiling tiger. But he could pounce over and bite someone's throat at any moment. In this venue, only Bai Yunj dared to use Yu Hanran as a tool. At this moment, Qing Zihuai's face turned red, as if he had been mocked in public. Chapter 208. Seeing this, Qin Youjiao could not help gritting her teeth and glancing at Bai Yunj gloomily. How could she not know that the Yu family was more powerful than the Qing family? After all, that was an aristocratic family that could even talk to the Hu family. She looked at Qing Zihuai's handsome face and knew that Qing Zihuai could not help her anymore. Qin Youjiao gritted her teeth and could only hold it in. I spoke inappropriately about this matter and made Miss Yu unhappy. I'll apologize to Miss Yu here. She looked at Yu Manran. After mentally preparing herself, she took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Miss Yu. I shouldn't have doubted you in public. The different gazes around made Qin Youjiao feel that she had embarrassed herself today. Seeing Qin Youjiao apologize, Qing Zihuai felt like he had been humiliated in public and looked at Bai Yunj with dark eyes. He could not touch the Yu family. However, Bai Yunj was the one who started all of this. Qing Zihuai clenched his fists. As long as he entered the A.M. Computing Institute and developed the Qing Corporation's information technology industry into the top industry in the country, he would make Bai Yunj regret going against him now sooner or later. At this thought, Qing Zihuai's expression softened and he pushed Qin Youjiao away. Soon. Yu Hanran walked in front of Bai Yunj and smiled insincerely. Little girl, shouldn't you thank me for helping you so much? Did Qin Youjiao apologize to me? Yu Hanran was speechless. Why does this little girl look like Master Du? I wonder why Master Du likes a little girl like you, Yu Hanran muttered unconsciously. Hearing this, Bai Yunj suddenly remembered something and smiled brightly. Although I know President Yu's usual habits, I still hope that if President Yu doesn't have anything serious to do, it's best if you don't bring your friends out to play. How could Yu Hanran not tell that Bai Yunj was trying to say that he was a playboy? All of a sudden, Yu Hanran knew why Bai Yunj said that. It was because of the time when he and Huashidu met their business partner at the clubhouse. Little girl, you've really wronged me this time. That time, I had something to discuss. Otherwise, how capable do you think I am to ask Master Du out? Yu Hanran could not help but laugh. In his heart, he was even more curious about Huashidu and Huajinyao. Originally, he thought it was the big bad wolf and the little white rabbit, but he didn't expect it to be a little fox. Interesting. After listening to the explanation, Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. She did not expect that she had received the wrong information. I see. Bai Yunj nodded and left after saying a few words. Thank you for your hard work. Yu Hanran, after Bai Yunj left, Yu Manran changed into a pair of lower heels and came back. Where's Gu-er? Where's Gu-er? Yu Manran looked excited. Yu Hanran glanced at her. When did you meet her? Just last month. Wasn't it because, Yu Manran was about to say something, but she was worried about Bai Yunj and shut her mouth. She rolled her eyes and left. It's none of your business. Yu Hanran, after watching this big show, everyone thought that today's gossip would be over. However, they did not expect to see Mother Qin, who was wearing a lake blue cheongsam, appear in front of everyone. Everyone knew that Mother Qin had publicly severed ties with her daughter who had just been found. Chapter 209. The Qin family must have monopolized the gossip business this year. Since the second half of the year, their family has been gossiping non-stop. A baby-faced girl was speechless. Yes, if it were our family, no one would be willing to listen. The baby-faced girl was speechless. Sorry for the interruption. She was not worthy. There were also many guests in the living room. When Mrs. Qin arrived, many rich madams surrounded her. After all, the Qin family's 3 sons and their beloved daughter had always been popular in the circle. Mrs. Qin, you're finally here. Is it only the daughter of the family today? Are the young masters so difficult to invite? A madam joked. It's too difficult to manage the 3 of them. They rarely come home and have their own opinions, Mrs. Qin said with a smile. That's a blessing. All 3 of her sons are so outstanding. That's right. Not to mention the 3 sons, the daughter is also amazing. No one has been able to catch up to our Jiao Jiao since she was young, right? Mrs. Qin did not lose her composure when she heard the flattery around her. She smiled gracefully. Unexpectedly, suddenly, a madam who had just returned from the garden and was obviously not familiar with the news on the internet said frankly. Mrs. Qin's other daughter is also very good, isn't she? I saw her playing the piano in the garden just now. She's even better than Jiao Jiao. Hearing this, the harmonious atmosphere suddenly froze. One of the madams saw that Mrs. Qin's expression was not very good. She immediately pulled the honest madam and said with a smile, What are you talking about? Jiao Jiao's piano skills are one of the best in the circle. The madams present all thought that this honest madam was deliberately bragging about Bai Yunj to curry favor with Mrs. Qin. However, she should have at least asked around and found out that Mrs. Qin and the new daughter had already broken off their relationship. I'm not joking. The madam, who looked extremely young, continued to speak stubbornly. You didn't see it, but the eldest miss of the Yu family and Jiao Jiao only played the zither once, and she played every single one of them. That's amazing. She's really a genius. These words were like a slap to Mrs. Qin's face. However, this madam still looked at Mrs. Qin with approval. Nurture her well. She'll definitely bring more honor to your family than Jiao Jiao. Mrs. Qin suppressed the displeasure on her face and maintained her composure. That's not my daughter. I only have one daughter, Jiao Jiao. Ah. What did you say? The young madam was stunned. I've severed ties with her. Mrs. Li, please don't mention her to me. Mrs. Qin's tone was distant and cold. She's so pretty and smart. Mrs. Qin, you. Mrs. Li thought it was ridiculous. Who wouldn't want to nurture a famous artist? Is Mother Qin crazy? Done. Mother Qin's face darkened and she sneered. What do you mean by learning how to play after listening to it once? I don't even know what tricks she used. Even the madams beside her were at a loss for words. Even if the relationship was severed, Bai Yunj was still Mrs. Qin's biological daughter. How could he splash dirty water on his own daughter in front of outsiders? Mrs. Qin, Mrs. Li looked at Mrs. Qin's dark face and didn't want to continue being annoying. She could only sigh. That girl was beautiful, had an unbelievably good temperament, and played the piano well. Mrs. Qin didn't know who would be at a disadvantage if she didn't acknowledge such a daughter. Chapter 210. Mrs. Li sighed. In her heart, she still wanted to build a good relationship with Bai Yunj. This girl was born with a noble appearance. If she was her daughter, she could be a vegetarian for a year. Mrs. Qin, can you give me her contact number? Mrs. Li stepped on the tiger's tail, her expression still sincere. Mrs. Qin's expression darkened and she only said 2 words. Delete it. At this moment, the other madams were afraid that Mrs. Qin would flare up on the spot. Fortunately, Qin Youjiao arrived not long after. Mom, why are you only here now? Qin Youjiao said with a smile. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin immediately turned around and walked to Qin Youjiao's side, saying with heartache, I already said that the injury on your leg hasn't healed yet, but you still insisted on coming over to celebrate old Madame Lu's birthday. I was training overseas for a year and didn't come to see Grandma Lu. I definitely have to come this time. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin's attention was not on these words. Instead, she noticed Qin Youjiao's red eyes. Jiao Jiao, why are your eyes red? Did you cry just now? Changing the topic, Mrs. Qin's expression darkened. It's Bai Yunj, isn't it? Mrs. Qin, what are you talking about? Miss Pei didn't do anything, Mrs. Li said unhappily. Hearing this, the other madams looked at Mrs. Li with admiration. This Mrs. Li was a tough person. Suddenly, Qing Zihuai said, Auntie Qin, I'm sorry. I didn't take good care of Jiao Jiao. How can I blame you for this? Hearing this, Mrs. Qin's expression softened, but she hated Bai Yunj even more. As long as she came, Jiao Jiao would be in trouble. Jinx! Everyone knew who Mrs. Qin was talking about. At this moment, Qin Youjiao grabbed Mrs. Qin's hand. Mom, it's okay. I've done something to let her down before. Mrs. Qin's expression was terrible as she pursed her lips and remained silent. All of a sudden. What's wrong with Auntie Qin? Not far away, someone laughed. Hearing this, the darkness on Mrs. Qin's face disappeared. She went forward to hold the person's hand and said lovingly, Yun Nuo, why are you here? This was the eldest young lady of the Yun family and the second daughter-in-law that Mrs. Qin wanted to matchmake. For Qin Yu, Yun Nuk was willing to develop in the entertainment industry. Now, she was a popular celebrity in the industry. I wanted to see Auntie and Sister Jiao Jiao. Yun Nuo looked at Qin Youjiao in surprise. Jiao Jiao, what happened to your leg? It's nothing. I accidentally fell. Qin Youjiao chuckled. Yun Nuo frowned. She had seen the news online too. She didn't know what was wrong with Qin Yu. He was suddenly so good to that new sister. And his relationship with Qin Yojiao seemed to have worsened. Jiao Jiao, what happened between you and your second brother? Yun Nuo asked gently. I don't know either. Second brother might have heard something from someone. Qin Yojiao lowered her head and gripped her skirt tightly. Mother Qin sneered, what else could it be? Someone came back and turned the Qin family upside down. Hearing this, Mrs. Li restrained herself from arguing with Mrs. Qin. She rolled her eyes elegantly and left with her wine glass. This family seemed to be sick in the head. She was such a good daughter, yet he despised her. Yun Nuo glanced at Mrs. Li who had left. She didn't know if she should interfere in the Qin family's matters, although she had always had a good relationship with Qin Yojiao. However, this was also to be with Qin Yu. Sister, the desserts here are not bad. Qin Yojiao suddenly took a few macarons for her and revealed the diamond necklace on her wrist intentionally or unintentionally. Chapter 211. A dark look flashed past Yun Nuo's eyes. That was the only one Qin Yu had bought at an auction in our nation. Back then, she thought that Qin Yu would give it to her, but she didn't expect him to give it to Qin Yojiao. This also showed how much Qin Yu loved his sister. At this thought, Yun Nuo concluded that Bai Yunj was too scheming and caused Qin Yu and Qin Yojiao to have a bad relationship. After all, they had been siblings for more than 10 years. At this thought, a smile appeared on Yun Nuo's face. She bent down and said to Qin Yojiao, Jiao Jiao, Sister Yun Nuo will settle this for you. Just have fun. Sister Yun Nuo, you, Qin Yojiao frowned, looking very worried. I'm from the Yun family. No one will say anything about you. No one can touch me. Hearing this, a strange glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes. She did not tell Yun Nuo that Bai Yunj was staying at Huashida's place. Bai Yunj followed the street lights and strolled around the garden. Half an hour later, she returned to the banquet. At the same time, Yun Nuo waited for about 10 minutes before she saw Bai Yunj. A trace of surprise flashed past her eyes. She had seen Bai Yunj before, but at that time, Bai Yunj gave people the feeling that she was introverted and gloomy, making people feel uncomfortable just by looking at her. However, she never thought that Bai Yunj would completely change her appearance now. Miss Pai. After Yun Nuo regained her senses, she walked up to Bai Yunj. What's the matter? Bai Yunj glanced at her, her tone lazy. She walked to the long table, took some food, and placed it on the plate. I know that you've never liked Jiao Jiao, but no matter what, Jiao Jiao has lived with her 3 brothers for so many years. Yun Nuo smiled and said, you can't compare to her. Hearing this, Bai Yunj was not unhappy at all. Instead, she snorted. She glanced at Yun Nuo calmly and raised an eyebrow, looking extremely charming. I can't compare to her. Why are you still talking to me? For a moment. Promise Yun choked on her words, and her face turned red. She didn't expect Bai Yunj to speak like a completely different person. What did you say to Qin Yu? Bai Yunj glanced at her indifferently. She remembered that in the original novel, Qin Yu had indeed gotten together with Yun Nuo in the end, so she couldn't be bothered to say anything. She slowly ate the dessert, but when Yun Nuo saw this, her face darkened. She rarely met anyone who gave her such an attitude. Not long after. Before Bai Yunj could pick up the steeped oolong tea, Yun Nuo suddenly moved her elbow and bumped into Bai Yunj's hand. She knocked over the oolong tea that Bai Yunj had just picked up. Seeing this, Bai Yunj's expression did not change. Yun Nuo smiled and poured a glass of water for Bai Yunj. Drink some water. Isn't it good? A moment later. Bai Yunj took the water from Yun Nuo. At this moment, the smile in Yun Nuo's eyes deepened. However, in the next moment, before Yun Nuo could say anything, Bei Yunj suddenly raised the glass of water. She calmly met Yun Nuo's gaze, her moist red lips curving. In an instant, a steady stream of warm water poured from Yun Nuo's head to her tail. It made Yun Nuo scream involuntarily. It also attracted everyone's attention. "Miss Yun, are you awake? If you're awake, take care of yourself in the future." Bei Yunj's eyes were filled with viciousness. If it was the people around Bei Yunj in her previous life, they would all know that although Bei Yunj liked to eat desserts, she had to have tea to relieve her boredom after the meal. Chapter 212. Yun Nuo had hit the nail on the head at the right time. Bei Yunj. For the first time, anger surged in Yun Nuo's chest. It kept hitting her rationality as she gritted her teeth and stared at Bei Yunj. At this moment, everyone saw that Yun Nuo was drenched and standing in front of Bei Yunj in a sorry state. There was also a broken teacup on the ground. It was obvious that this was the prelude to a fight. However, Bei Yunj ignored Yun Nuo's presence and walked to the side, drinking her tea slowly. Seeing this, everyone's interest was piqued. Was it that good? However, Yun Nuo's expression was distorted. She was so angry that she wanted to raise her hand and teach Bei Yunj a lesson. This thought flashed through Yun Nuo's mind. Soon, she really took a step forward and raised her hand. Suddenly. "Yun Nuo, what do you want to do?" The man's deep voice was cold. Instantly, Yun Nuo jumped in fright and turned to look at him instinctively. "Qin Yu. I was the one who poured water on me first." Yun Nuo bit her lip and looked at Qin Yu with red eyes. Qin Yu had never been fierce to her before. Qin Yu pursed his lips and walked to Bei Yunj's side without a word. His voice suddenly became gentle. Are you all right?" Bei Yunj's eyelids moved and she saw the nervousness in Qin Yu's eyes. "I'm fine. Qin Yu. I was bullied. Are you blind?" Yun Nuo's usual temper flared up and she shouted angrily. If it was before, no matter how unhappy Qin Yu was, he would only ignore her. However, at this moment, she saw Qin Yu slowly turn around, his eyes cold and distant. "Stay away from Gu in the future." Yun Nuo's body froze, as if she was filled with coldness. "I'm just teaching her for you. I don't really hate her," she explained immediately. Yun Nuo was really afraid that Qin Yu would ignore her. "Do I need you to teach me?" Qin Yu chuckled carelessly, but his tone was sarcastic. At this moment, Yun Nuo completely knew why Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao hated Bei Yunj so much. What right did she have to make Qin Yu protect her like this? Even if they were biological siblings, they were just strangers who had only met a few times. "Qin Yu, didn't you realize that because of her, your relationship with your family is already bad?" Qin Yu's arrogant eyes were filled with impatience. "Are you done? If you're done, don't ever appear in front of me again." "Qin Yu. How long have we known each other? How many times have you met her?" "Yun Nuo, I'll say it again. I don't like you at all. Don't make me say anything more unpleasant. Let's leave some dignity for each other." Qin Yu rarely embarrassed the opposite sex in public. Although he looked cold and arrogant, he respected girls very much. But this time, Yun Nuo had touched Qin Yu's reverse scale. Yun Nuo looked at Qin Yu. Seeing that he did not care about their relationship at all, she could not help but tear up. She had never suffered such grievances in her entire life. "Sister Yun Nuo, why are you crying?" Suddenly, Qin Yojiao and Qing Zihuai came over. Qin Yojiao comforted Yun Nuo and said softly, "Second brother won't really ignore you. Sister Yun Nuo, it'll be fine in a few days." With that said, a dark look flashed past her eyes. She did not expect Qin Yu to return at this time. She did not expect Qin Yu to not even care about Yun Nuo's face. Suddenly. Chapter 213. Hearing this, Yun Nuo's face, which was already covered in tears, paled instantly. Qin Yujiao's expression also froze and her hand that was wiping Yun Nuo's tears froze. A thought appeared in her mind. Was second brother doing this to slap her face? Qin Yu, I was wrong. Can you not be angry? Yun Nuo regretted it in her heart, but she hated Bai Yunj even more for being doted on by Qin Yu. Even Qin Yujiao back then had never made her feel so unbalanced. However, at this moment, Yun Nuo was even more afraid that Qin Yu would really refuse to appear on the screen with her. If that happened, their CP fans would definitely drop. They would also definitely sense Qin Yu's cold attitude towards her. You should apologize to my sister, not me. Qin Yu snorted, his tone cold. These words made Yun Nuo's face turn red and pale. She was the elder young miss of the Yun family after all. Even if it was Qin Yujiao, she couldn't lower her head and apologize, let alone Bai Yunj. Suddenly. There's no need. Bai Yunj said slowly, Miss Yun, you just have to take care of yourself. Yun Nuo gritted her teeth and looked at Bai Yunj angrily. However, when she felt Qin Yu's cold gaze, her expression changed immediately. It's Sister Yun's fault. Sister Yun will apologize to you. Yunj, can you forgive me? Bai Yunj's beautiful eyes relaxed and she looked bright and arrogant. No, Sister Yun. In an instant. The atmosphere was cold and silent. Yun Nuo's expression was distorted. If Qin Yu wasn't beside Bai Yunj, Yun Nuo wanted to rush up and tear Bai Yunj's face apart. Suddenly. Deskmate. A low and casual young man's voice rang out. Bai Yunj turned around and saw Lu Yuanxi wearing a black t-shirt and flip-flops. His hair was messy and fluffy as he appeared in front of her. The boy was tall and handsome. He didn't look sloppy at all. Instead, he looked lazy and cute. Bai Yunj suddenly remembered. Lu Yuanxi, the Lu family. No wonder the teachers in the school treated him like an ancestor. Yuanxi, who are you calling? An old lady with a clear voice appeared in front of everyone. Grandma, this is my desk mate. Lu Yuanxi glanced at old Madame Lu, then raised his chin towards Bai Yunj. Your desk mate. A woman. Old Madame Lu's heart skipped a beat. When she turned around and saw Bai Yunj clearly, she was even more shocked. Wasn't this the girl she had tried to blackmail last time? Didn't she still have a son and a very handsome and young husband? Bai Yunj, who met the old madame's gaze, was speechless. To think that there was such a fate. You're not that. That. Bai Yunj interrupted old Madame Lu with a smile. My name is Bai Yunj. I've met old Madame Lu before. This scene confused Qin Yu and the others. They did not know how the two of them had met. Only Lu Yuanxi rubbed the back of his head and suddenly remembered something. Last month, he had seen his grandma blackmailing a girl on the streets and wanted to introduce her to him. Suddenly, Lu Yuanxi's expression darkened. This old lady had even blackmailed Bai Yunj. Had she gone crazy from missing her granddaughter-in-law? Soon. Old Madame Lu roughly understood what was going on, but she was not angry. Instead, she was full of smiles. Yes, we've met before. The two of us are fated to meet. Chapter 214. Hearing this, everyone felt a little strange. What's wrong, old madam? Are you planning to acknowledge a granddaughter on the spot? Lu Yuanxi sneered slowly. Old Madame Lu almost couldn't maintain her smile. It was too difficult to get a granddaughter-in-law. This foolish grandson was so disappointing. At this moment, Mrs. Chin and the other madams, who did not know what was going on, walked over. When they saw old Madame Lu, a glint flashed past their eyes. She went forward to hold old Madame Lu's hand and said with a smile, "Old Madam, it's your birthday banquet today. Why are you outside in the cold wind? Let's go back to the living room quickly." With that said, Mrs. Chin glanced at Bai Yunj. After frowning slightly, she called out gently, "Jiao Jiao, come and talk to your Grandma Lu." "Okay, then let's go to the living room first." Old Madame Lu smiled. When she saw Qin Youjiao sitting in a wheelchair on the way, she frowned unconsciously. "Jiao Jiao, what happened to your leg?" "It's nothing. I accidentally fell downstairs. Don't worry, I didn't hurt my bones. I'll recover in a week. Then you have to be careful in the future. It's not good to have a scar on a girl's leg." Old Madame Lu nodded and reminded her. In the living room. Whose daughter are you?" Before Mrs. Chin and old Madame Lu could get close, old Madame Lu looked at Bai Yunj impatiently. It was obvious that she was very interested in Bai Yunj. However, when Mrs. Chin heard this, her expression froze and she glanced coldly at Bai Yunj with disgust. It was as if she was afraid that others would associate her with Bai Yunj. But who knew, me? Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows slowly and chuckled slowly. "I live in an orphanage." Old Madame Lu's expression was pitiful. "Oh, your parents are dead." Suddenly, Lu Yuanci, who was eating spaghetti, covered his mouth and coughed lightly, choking. Everyone was speechless. What kind of suffocating scene was this? At this moment, old Madame Lu was still chatting enthusiastically with Bai Yunj, but she did not notice how terrible Mrs. Chin's expression was. Until Chin Yu returned from the washroom. Mrs. Chin's expression softened slightly and she said to Qin Youjiao with a coy smile, "Jiao Jiao, did your second brother buy this bracelet for you when he went to Country R?" "Yes." A coy expression appeared on Qin Youjiao's face and she could not help but look at Qin Yu again. This bracelet was made purely by hand. There's only one in the world. The lady beside her had a discerning eye. This bracelet is worth at least 20 to 30 million, right? Second young master really dotes on Miss Qin Youjiao. Many people present also noticed Qin Youjiao's last sentence, there was only one in the world. In that case, Qin Yu didn't give it to Bai Yunj and only gave it to Qin Youjiao. Everyone had different thoughts, but they all felt that this little princess who had been doted on by the Qin family for more than 10 years would not fall out of favor so easily. "Yu doesn't come home often, but he's willing to buy things for his sister," Mrs. Qin said with a smile when she realized that she had achieved her goal. Instead of looking at Mrs. Qin, Qin Yu turned his head and chuckled. Why aren't you wearing anything at the banquet?" Bai Yunja's eyebrows moved and she looked at Qin Yu. "You haven't worn what second brother bought for you before." Qin Yu chuckled and took out an exquisite and beautiful necklace from his pocket. Chapter 215. Soon. Bai Yunj felt a cool touch in front of her collarbone. After Qin Yu put on the necklace for Bai Yunj, he let go of her hand calmly. Looking at Bai Yunj, his gaze was deep and gentle. "My gu is very pretty." Suddenly, someone's knife and fork fell on the table, attracting the attention of many people. F***CK, sister, look at that necklace. Is it the Queen of Posebi's necklace? The baby-faced girl shook her sister's hand crazily. "You must have seen wrongly, of course not. I studied jewelry design for nothing. This is definitely the real deal. I remember that there was a big brand that imitated this necklace and produced a custom-made product. It cost 40 million. The baby-faced girl looked excited. Hearing this, the rest of the people were stunned. Queen of Posebi's necklace. He remembered that 10 years ago, the last auction had been sold for more than 98 million. Today, it could only become more and more valuable. Is this very expensive? Bai Yunj furrowed her eyebrows. She remembered that Qin Yu had given the original protagonist this necklace before. However, she did not expect it to be so valuable. It's all right. Qin Yu smirked. The price of this necklace that Qin Yu had bid for was 160 million. After all, this was a real antique and had collectible value. Qin Yu remembered that he was still filming in Our Nation at that time. Because Qin Yojiao kept quarreling and insisted on getting a bracelet from an auction, he also went to bid for it. But because this bracelet was unique, Qin Yu remembered that he had a new sister at home and he wanted to prepare a gift for her. So, he secretly bid for this Queen of Posebi's necklace. After all, this was his first gift for his new sister. At this thought, Qin Yu's gaze on Bai Yunj became gentler. This might be the only thing he had done right in his previous life. When did second brother buy that necklace for Yunj? Qin Yojiao suppressed her emotions, but her eyes were red with jealousy and she felt even more indignant. This should have belonged to her. When Gu returned to the Qin family for the first time, Qin Yu's eyes turned cold calmly and he sneered. Hearing this, not only Qin Yojiao, even Mrs. Qin did not expect Qin Yu to give Bai Yunj such an expensive gift in private. Even for Qin Yojiao, the most expensive thing was the bracelet she was wearing today. In an instant, Qin Yojiao's face paled. She found this hard to believe. Bai Yunj touched the necklace in front of her collarbone, wondering why the original owner of her body didn't sell this thing. At this moment, old Madame Lu tugged at Lu Yuanxi's sleeve and asked curiously, "What's the relationship between Gu and the Qin family?" "Oh, the second lady on your left is the mother of my desk mate." Lu Yuanxi continued to eat his noodles. "I don't want to." Suddenly, the back of Lu Yuanxi's head suffered a palm strike. Old Madame Lu was angry and annoyed. "You rascal, why didn't you tell me earlier?" This palm almost pressed Lu Yuanxi's head into the ground. "Lu Yuanxi, what did this have to do with her? Don't poke your nose into other people's business." Lu Yuanxi furrowed his eyebrows. His desk mate was a barrel of explosives that could explode at any time. Was he tired of living if he went up to her now? Old Madame Lu despised and hated him. Is this brat's brain all used on gaming? Don't you have any feelings for Gu? Chapter 216. Old Madam, you just woke up too. Lu Yuanxi chuckled and continued to eat his noodles. The corners of old Madame Lu's lips twitched. She suspected that their Lu family might have no descendants because of this little B** starred. If this little girl is abducted, you'll regret it. With that said, old Madame Lu suddenly thought of the man who pretended to be Bai Yunj's husband last time. He was young and handsome and looked equally dignified. There's no hope. Old Madame Lu's eyelids twitched. Compared to that young man, Lu Yuanxi was indeed too different. Soon, Yu Hanran also brought Yu Manran to the living room. However, before Yu Hanran could find a seat and sit beside Bai Yunj, Qin Yu suddenly said gently, "Hanran, I have something to talk to you about." Yu Hanran was perplexed. What was wrong with Qin Yu? Had he already forgotten that they were sworn enemies? Yu Hanran's eyelids twitched, but he still sat beside Qin Yu. He was about to speak, "Are you, at least you know what's good for you." Qin Yu snorted. Yu Hanran was speechless. "I know that my sister is good-looking and outstanding. It's normal for you to be moved. But you should control yourself." Qin Yu smiled and patted Yu Hanran's shoulder gently. "A man can't help himself. This is called committing a crime." Seeing Qin Yu look like he was going to punish him personally at any time, Yu Hanran felt that it was ridiculous. Stop talking nonsense, Yu Hanran said immediately. Qin Yu asked, is my sister not good looking? Yes. You don't like this kind of face? I do. Then can you control yourself? I can control myself. Before Yu Hanran could finish answering, he realized that this question was a trap. No matter how he answered, it would be like he was lusting after his sister. Qin Yu, are you deliberately finding trouble with me? Yu Hanran took a deep breath and looked at Qin Yu with a cold smile. Don't think that you can take advantage of me just because I don't have time to take care of Gu. Qin Yu refused to give up. His face was almost filled with, don't even think about it, dream on. However, Yu Hanran was confused. When did he show that he was interested in Bai Yunj? Now, Qin Yu was staring at him like he was a thief. Why do you think that I'm interested in your goober? Yu Hanran put on a fake smile. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, he would have fought with this dog. You don't need to know. Qin Yu's eyes were arrogant and handsome. His tone was lazy with a faint sneer, but he was secretly sighing in his heart. He did not expect Master Du to treat him so well. Knowing that Yu Hanran was restless, he still remembered to ask Assistant Singh to remind him to be more vigilant. Sure enough, so many years of brotherhood were worth cherishing. Suddenly. Did Huashida tell you? Yu Hanran thought about it. This was the only person who could fan the flames. Why? Are you feeling guilty? Qin Yu glanced at him. Yu Hanran's face twitched. Great, there's actually a thief calling out to stop the thief. Are you stupid? Yu Hanran couldn't help but scold. Yu Hanran, are you itching for a beating? Qin Yu's expression also darkened. Me? Qin Yu, take AF ** king look. Do I look like someone who would steal your little cabbage? Yu Hanran laughed in anger. Qin Yu snorted. Yu Hanran, do you have some misunderstanding about yourself? At this moment. What are you talking about? Bai Yunj asked. Chapter 217. Nothing. Qin Yu and Yu Hanran pretended that nothing had happened. When Yu Manran saw this, he could tell at a glance that Qin Yu and Yu Hanran had a good relationship. Then I'll go back first. I still have something to do. Bai Yunj didn't like to stay in such a place. Then second brother will send you. Qin Yu said instinctively. No need. A chauffeur will pick me up later. In the eyes of outsiders, Bai Yunj's attitude was nothing, but Qin Yu could clearly feel that Gu-er's attitude towards him was still cold. Qin Yu's eyes darkened. Then. Gu-er, go back and rest early. Bai Yunj glanced at him. You too. Then. After greeting old Madame Lu, Bai Yunj turned and left. However, at this moment, Qin Yu's expression was happy. His eyes were dark and bright and the corners of his lips could not help but curl up. Was Gu-er concerned about him just now? After getting this understanding, Qin Yu decided to work hard so that Gu-er could accept him as her second brother again. Until he regained his senses. Qin Yu saw Yu Hanran raise an eyebrow and look at him with a gloating gaze. Did Qin Yu's usual intelligence lose all of it when it came to his sister? Eat more. Don't you like to eat cabbage? Qin Yu picked up a few cabbages for Yu Hanran in a friendly manner. Yu Hanran took a deep breath and chuckled soon. He really picked up his wooden chopsticks and ate the cabbage calmly. Your cabbage. UF** King planted your cabbage in someone else's den and you're still afraid of being bitten? Although Yu Hanran was angry, he was still a person who liked to watch a show. He would not tell Qin Yu the truth. Looking at the current situation, he wanted to know if Master Du would take away Qin Yu's cabbage. At this thought, Yu Hanran glanced at Qin Yu gloatingly. He really wanted to know what expression Qin Yu would have if he saw Master Du personally poaching his cabbage. The grading speed of Hingda High School was very fast. The next afternoon, the papers were all distributed. Bai Yunj bit her straw and glanced at her 6 test papers. It was not surprising that she had scored more than 300 points. But she didn't expect Chu Zhixing's science results to be so good. Other than chemistry, where he lost 2 marks for one question, he scored full marks for the rest of the subjects. However, when Bai Yunj caught a glimpse of Chu Zhixing's English and Chinese papers, her eyelids twitched. Her science results were almost full marks, but her liberal arts results were not up to par. Master Pai, your Chinese and English are really good, Chu Zhixing said enviously. Bai Yunj looked at her Chinese and English scores of 70 to 80 points. She couldn't help but twitch her lips. She didn't know how to answer him. Very tall. Let me see. Lu Yuanxi, who had just returned from playing basketball, heard Bai Yunj and Chu Zhixing discussing the results, and his eyes lit up. Language 78 marks, English 87 marks. When Lu Yuanxi saw this, he couldn't suppress the smile on his face. Until he realized that Bai Yunj was looking at him with a faint smile. Lu Yuanxi's smile disappeared and he patted Bai Yunj's shoulder. Don't be discouraged, deskmate. Although your scores aren't high, I can teach you. With that said, Lu Yuanxi turned around with a refreshing smile on his face, only to see the English papers he was proud of lying flat on the table. The bold red 68-foot made Lu Yuanxi's whole body stiffen. However, at this moment, Chu Zhixing spoke. Brother Lu, how many marks did you get in English? Chapter 218. Chu Zhixing guessed with an envious expression. 145. 146. Seeing that Lu Yuanxi did not answer, Chu Zhixing thought that his guess was still too low and his expression became even more impressed. He did not expect Brother Lu to really be a hidden genius. At this moment, Bai Yunj happened to glance to the side and saw the clear 68-foot. Immediately, Lu Yuanxi heard a soft laugh from the side, as if someone could not hold it in. Lu Yuanxi looked at Bai Yunj expressionlessly and gritted his teeth. It must be a mistake. He grew up in our country, how could his score be so low? It was even lower than Bai Yunj's. Brother Lu. Before Chu Zhixing could ask, he was interrupted by Lu Yuanxi. Shut up. At first, Chu Zhixing was confused until he saw the 68-foot on Lu Yuanxi's paper. After a moment of silence, Chu Zhixing quietly put away his 66th paper, afraid that he would agitate Lu Yuanxi. However, at this moment, Bai Yunj showed a rare trace of pity and comforted him. At least the total score is over 100. Lu Yuanxi really wanted to curse. In Class 1. Jiao Jiao, what kind of big boss are you? You're second in the cohort again. The girl could not help but be excited. I'm lucky. Qin Yo Jiao smiled. It was only when Ling Jiwei walked into Class 1 that her eyes lit up. Jiao Jiao, I heard a teacher praising you in the office just now. You're second again and first in the liberal arts. Ling Jiwei teased, isn't it time to treat us? Every time we take an exam, you all find reasons to exploit me. Qin Yo Jiao said coquettishly. Who asked Jiao Jiao to be so amazing? At this point, Ling Jiwei suddenly remembered Bai Yunj's results that she had seen in the office just now and a mocking look appeared in her eyes. Unlike someone who can't be helped by mud. Wei Wei, are you talking about that Bai Yunj? Qin Yo Jiao was also quite popular with girls in class. The girls who often followed Qin Yo Jiao naturally didn't like Bai Yunj. Especially not long ago, Bai Yunj was ranked first in the Tiaba forum for the most beautiful girl in school. Qin Youjiao's total votes were not even 1/5 of Bai Yunji's. Yeah, a total score of more than 300 points, 28th from the bottom of the grade. Ling Jiwei's tone was sarcastic and gloating. With these grades, I don't even know what university you can go to. Hearing this, a dark look flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes as she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Ever since she saw Bai Yunji playing the piano at the Liu family's house yesterday, she had been feeling uneasy. She was afraid that there would be a change in her performance today. Fortunately, Bai Yunji's results were within her expectations. She couldn't be compared to her. She came from that kind of high school. It's normal for her not to adapt at first. Qin Youjiao smiled faintly. What do you mean? She was a bad student in her original high school, let alone in a school like ours. Ling Jiwei was smug. She wanted to see how Bai Yunji would be slapped in the face after finding out about Qin Youjiao's results. At noon, Bai Yunji received a call from Marcus. Yunji, someone wants to buy the licensing rights for our project. Do you know about the Delaney Group? Marcus was extremely excited. Before the patent was officially released, Delaney had already offered a sky-high patent fee. One could imagine how popular Bai Yunji's first project was. Chapter 219. Even the top technology group in our nation wanted to buy out Bai Yunji's project patent, as if they were afraid that she would sell it to someone else. However, Marcus did not expect that before he could be happy for long. Bai Yunji said slowly. I'm not selling it. Marcus was speechless. I say, little ancestor, do you know how much Delaney paid for this patent fee? A patent fee of 10 figures. Is my patent cabbage? Bai Yunji smiled faintly. Marcus was speechless. 10 figures. It's signed for 5 years, Bai Yunji said concisely. In her previous life, Bai Yunji's first project had won the top award in the industry. As a result, the most news about her on the internet was about her sky-high patent fee that was skyrocketing every year. This was really a big boss who dared to suck the blood of capitalists. However, the capitalists had a love-hate relationship with this big boss. At this moment, Marcus calmed down and quickly organized his words. He smiled carefully and said, but our project isn't completed yet. Delaney is interested in the prospects of our project, but it's hard to say if we can expand the market. Then we can let him wait for my project to finish. With that said, Bai Yunji added slowly, when the time comes, the fee will be doubled. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. He sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly said, okay. Then I'll talk to Delaney first. Okay. After Bai Yunji hung up the phone, she returned to class leisurely with her milk tea. However, Bai Yunji did not expect to see Chu Zhixing memorizing words alone. Have you eaten? Bai Yunji returned to her seat and asked. Chu Zhixing was caught secretly memorizing words. He looked a little shy and shook his head. Bai Yunji raised an eyebrow and said lazily, just nice. I don't want to drink anymore. With that said, Chu Zhixing saw the milk tea on the table. Thank you, Yunji. Chu Zhixing glanced at the girl who was playing with her iPad with her head propped up. He could not help but feel his heart warm. Why are you suddenly so interested in foreign languages? Bai Yunji asked casually. I want to apply for the summer camp at our nation's medical institute. I've always been interested in medicine, but, Chu Zhixing scratched his head. My language skills are not good. I can't even write an application form. A dark look flashed past Bai Yunji's eyes. She turned her head to look at Chu Zhixing. Let me see. Chu Zhixing was stunned for a moment. He then took out an application form for the medical institute and a handwritten application description and handed them to Bai Yunji. After reading Chu Zhixing's handwritten instructions, Bei Yunj said, actually, you don't have to apply. Chu Zhixing's science results were indeed excellent. He also had a lot of medical knowledge and had a lot of opinions. To be able to reach such a level at his age, he was indeed a good seedling. No. Chu Zhixing thought that Bei Yunj was planning to open the door for him, so he said nervously, Wei Yunj, forget it. I want to get in through my own efforts. I don't want to be looked down upon. From the medicine last time, Chu Zhixing roughly knew that Bei Yunj should know someone from the Our Nation's Research Institute. However, there had always been a person in the Our Nation's Research Institute who had been his idol. He did not want that person to think that he had gotten in through the back door. Who knew, however, Bei Yunj's eyes suddenly curved as she teased slowly, then who does little Chu want to be looked down upon? Chapter 220. Chu Zhixing's face flushed red. No, no one. It's not considered letting you in through the back door. Bei Yunj chuckled. She was planning to talk to Stephen about Chu Zhixing's handwritten application when she was free. As for whether he would accept it or not, it was all up to Stephen. Thank you very much, Yunj. But this application has a different meaning to me. I want to get his approval personally. Chu Zhixing smiled. Hearing this, Bei Yunj did not say anything. She only turned around and leaned on the table to take a nap. Until class started. Bei Yunj took out a blank piece of paper from the drawer. After pondering for a while, she started to write the entire page. Then, before Chu Zhixing came back with water, she casually put the paper into Chu Zhixing's English textbook and continued to sleep on the table. After school. Bei Yunj had just gotten into the car when she suddenly remembered the parent-teacher conference. Uncle Zhang, let's go to the Huo Corporation. Uncle Zhang nodded with a smile. Okay, Mississippi. Not long after, Bei Yunj sent Huo another message. Brother, I'll wait for you at the company today. A minute or two later, Bei Yunj received a reply. Okay, I'll get Tsing-Su to bring you upstairs. Seeing this message, Bei Yunj smiled calmly. Half an hour passed. At the Huo Corporation. Tsing-Su saw Bei Yunj's figure from afar and immediately went forward to block the sun for Bei Yunj with a folder. Miss Pei, the sun is so strong. You have to bring an umbrella next time. Tsing-Su smiled. Thank you for your concern, Assistant Tseng. After Bei Yunj and Tsing-Su walked into the company, she smiled brightly. Oh right, is Assistant Tseng free next Friday? Tsing-Su's eyelid twitched and he had a bad feeling. Do you need my help with anything? I wonder if I could trouble Assistant Tseng to hold a parent-teacher conference for me next Friday. When Bei Yunj smiled, her eyes were curved and her eyes were clear and harmless. However, when Tsing-Su heard this, he was scared out of his wits. What kind of joke was this? Holding a parent-teacher meeting for Miss Pei. Wouldn't Master Du bury him alive? That. Why doesn't Miss Pei try asking Master Du? Tsing-Su smiled fawningly. Master Du dotes on you so much, why would he reject your request? I'm afraid that my brother will be scolded if he goes. Bei Yunj blinked her clear and beautiful eyes and said honestly. Tsing-Su, so you want me to be scolded? Miss Pei, please spare me. How would I dare to be your guardian? Tsing-Su wanted to cry but had no tears. Bei Yunj. Then I'll think of another way. Since she had left the Qin family, she certainly wouldn't let the Qin family hold a parent-teacher conference for her. However, she had just taken over this body not long ago, so she did not know many people. Looking for Elder Zhong. Letting an extremely famous researcher sit in her classroom and be scolded did not sound like something a human would do. Looking for Yu Manran. He would be at the top of the headlines the next day. As for Marcus, who was far away overseas, that was even more unrealistic. Bae-yeon, who was thinking about this problem, unknowingly pushed open the door of the president's office. "You're here." A man's deep voice sounded. "Yes." Bae-yeon reacted and placed her backpack on the coffee table. Immediately after, she saw a slender and good-looking hand holding a bottle of milk and placing it in front of her. "Yun, play by yourself first. I have a meeting to attend later." Chapter 221. Bae-yeon looked at the milk that seemed to have been specially prepared for her, and her pretty eyes moved unconsciously. "Got it." She reached out to take the milk. Seeing this, the man chuckled softly and only left the office when someone outside reminded him. However, not long after, Bae-yeon pushed her homework aside and took out her iPad to check on the follow-up of her 2 interns' projects. Suddenly, Bae-yeon received several messages from Yu Man-ran. "Chin Yo-jiao wants to enter the entertainment industry. I heard that she's planning to sign a contract with your second brother's personal studio. Is this woman manipulating public opinion for the sake of convenience in the future? I've already seen the company's marketing accounts clearing her name." Smile, are you there? After reading these messages, Bae-yeon raised an eyebrow slightly. Indeed, she did not expect Chin Yo-jiao to choose to enter the entertainment industry at this time. According to the original novel's development, Chin Yo-jiao should have entered the entertainment industry after graduating from university. Then, Bae-yeon moved her fingers lightly and typed a paragraph of text. "The new song is pretty good. Practice your high notes well this month. The next new song will be the one that made you famous." At this moment, Yu Man-ran, who was drinking water backstage, choked and coughed violently as his eyes widened in disbelief. "Sister Man, can you not look like a young girl in love? Why are you staring at your phone and smiling foolishly? What if the paparazzi take photos of you?" The manager's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. She really did not expect Yu Man-ran to be so lucky to meet a benefactor in a bar. This new song made Yu Man-ran's popularity surpass several popular A-list female celebrities. If the next song could still be so popular, Yu Man-ran would definitely jump into the ranks of the A-list celebrities this year. "I was chatting with just now. We were talking about a new song." Yu Man-ran was a little weak. His recent popularity had already made Yu Man-ran feel that it was unreal. And Bae-yeon's words just now made Yu Man-ran feel like he was dreaming. The manager was suddenly even more agitated than Yu Man-ran. "What did she say to you?" Yu Man-ran's eyelids twitched. He turned to look at her and said, "She told me to practice my high notes properly. My next song will be the one that will make me famous." If someone else had said something like this, she might have thought that the person was bragging. But Bae-yeon was different. That new song had only been released for less than a week, but it had already dominated all the charts in the country. Recently, the popularity of his new songs overseas had also been rising. There were even well-known singers who adapted and covered the song. In this situation, even she felt that this song was enough for Yu Man-ran to earn a lifetime of dividends. However, Bae-yeon even told Yu Man-ran that the next song would be Yu Man-ran's masterpiece. The manager felt goosebumps all over her body. Man, did your ancestors accumulate virtue for 18 lifetimes? How could such a lucky thing happen to her? Yu Man-ran said frankly, "I'm starting to think so too." The manager was speechless. However, Yu Man-ran still couldn't help but worry. Chin Yo-jiao's motive for entering the entertainment industry was definitely not that simple. What if she was planning to use her identity as an artiste to step on Bae-yeon in the villa? Chin Yo had just taken a shower when he saw his manager's serious expression. "What's wrong?" He looked up. "Miss Chin signed up for our studio." Chapter 222. What? Qin Yu's handsome eyes were like thick ink as the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Was Qin Yojiao crazy? Miss Qin wants to enter the entertainment industry. Logically speaking, staying with her brother would be more. She would feel more at ease. Before the manager could finish speaking, he felt Qin Yu's cold gaze and shut up instinctively. My younger sister only has Bei Yunj. Don't forget it. Qin Yu snorted. Get rid of this person in the first round. If she appears in my studio, then I'll get rid of you. Do you understand? Hearing this, the manager felt a chill run down his spine and nodded hurriedly. Brother Yu, don't worry. I won't let her in. At the same time, the manager could not understand why Qin Yu had changed his attitude towards Qin Yojiao. In the past, although Qin Yu did not come home often, it was obvious that he doted on Qin Yojiao. However, what he was sure of now was that the newly returned Miss Pei had completely become the person Qin Yu was most nervous about. At the whole corporation, Bei Yunj twirled the pen in her hand and slowly did her homework. Suddenly, the door was pushed open gently and a coquettish voice sounded. Is Assistant Singh here? Bei Yunj did not even look up as she said casually, no. However, hearing the reply, the smile on the female secretary's face froze. It was obvious that she did not expect there to be a woman inside. She had been in the company for almost 3 months and had found out that President Huo was not close to women. Even the staff around him were all men. But what was with this voice in the office? After some thought, the female secretary could not help but push the door open and enter. But what he didn't expect was to see a bright and beautiful girl sitting by the coffee table doing her homework. She was stunned for a moment before she smiled and said, Are you President Huo's younger sister? Bei Yunj's pen stopped. She did not expect her to come in. Her red lips curved and she looked even more charming, but her words were ambiguous. If that's the case, then you can say so. These words made the female secretary's smile freeze. What did this girl mean? Alarm bells rang in the female secretary's heart. Did President Huo agree to miss being here? The female secretary seemed to treat herself as a regular here. At this moment, Bei Yunj didn't answer her question. She just bit her straw and wrote the question slowly. However, seeing that Bei Yunj didn't say anything, the secretary thought that Bei Yunj was guilty. Little girl, are you President Huo's friend's little sister? The female secretary was a little smart. She knew that Bei Yunj wouldn't be able to enter this office building if she didn't have a high status. But, little girl, you probably don't know that President Huo doesn't like women in his office, the female secretary said again. Upon hearing this, Bei Yunj looked up and sized her up. The female secretary was wearing a suit skirt that was cut short to her thighs. Her legs in black stockings were especially sexy. So, shouldn't you go out? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and looked at her calmly. There was no warmth in his eyes, which inexplicably made the female secretary a little flustered. I'm here to look for Assistant Singh. I have some work matters to hand over. On the other hand, isn't it inappropriate for Miss to be doing homework here? Why don't I bring you to the reception room? Chapter 223. Bei Yunj glanced at this troublesome woman and then glanced at the phone screen. They will be back in 3 minutes. Why aren't you leaving? Miss, please come out with me. As an employee, I have to do my best for my boss. The female secretary did not believe that this girl really knew when Master Du would be back. If he really came back in 3 minutes, would she dare to sit here? What if I don't go out? Bei Yunj leaned lazily against the sofa. Her black curly hair was spread out casually, but her eyes were soul-stirring. Even as a woman, she could feel how seductive this girl was. The female secretary gritted her teeth and deliberately scared her. "Miss, you don't want me to ask the security guards to ask you to leave, do you? A young lady with such a good family background should be the most afraid of losing face." "Miss Secretary, did you misunderstand something?" Bai Yunj suddenly smiled. Hearing this, the female secretary could not help but walk towards Bai Yunj. She thought that Bai Yunj was afraid and was about to give in. "What did you misunderstand?" The female secretary waited for Bai Yunj to explain clearly. Unexpectedly, Bai Yunj suddenly stood up. Bai Yunj leaned close to her ear and said in a clear tone, "I'm not your president's sister. I'm his child bride." Hearing this, the female secretary's legs almost went weak. She had heard that many wealthy families groomed outstanding wives for their heirs. But in this era, very few people did so. Then, before the female secretary could retort, the man's light voice suddenly sounded from the door. "Yunyun, what are you doing?" Huashidu had just pushed open the door when he saw this young lady's eyes crinkling. He did not know what she said to the woman beside her, but that woman's expression changed drastically. This child was making a fuss again. When Bai Yunj saw that Huashidu had returned, she sat back on the sofa and looked at the female secretary again with a smile. The female secretary did not expect Bai Yunj to be telling the truth. President Hua actually came back at this time. She was flustered, especially when she met Huashidu's cold eyes. President Hua, who let you in?" The man's tone was still cold and indifferent, but the oppressive feeling around him sent chills down her spine. The secretary's pretty face turned pale, and she subconsciously looked at Bai Yunj who was sitting on the sofa. She gritted her teeth and pointed at Bai Yunj. "I'm here to look for Assistant Tsing, but I didn't expect to see this lady in your office. That's why I thought of a way to get her to move to another place, to stay." The female secretary's voice became softer and softer. She knew that she must have offended Huashidu this time. She could only make this man soften his heart a little with her red eyes. "Is Tsing Su the owner of this office? Are you looking for him here?" Huashidu's gaze swept over her indifferently. He walked straight to his desk and pressed a few buttons on the landline. Soon, Tsing Su arrived. "Master Du." When Tsing Su saw a pretty female secretary appear in Huashidu's office with red eyes, he immediately realized what was going on. These women really dared to praise him. Before everyone entered the company, they were warned not to enter the president's office. However, every year, there would be people who thought that they were exceptions and could gain Master Du's favor. How stupid! Tsing Su cursed in his heart. He knew that Master Du would blame him again. Chapter 224. Is this the person you've interviewed? The man's pair of lustful eyes were dangerous and deep. Tsing Su quickly lowered his head. "Master Du, I didn't take good care of the newbie. Get her out." Huashidu's casual words made Tsing Su wonder if he had heard wrongly. However, when his gaze landed on the person on the sofa, he seemed to have understood something. It turned out that there was a life-saving talisman. Tsing Su took a deep breath and looked at the newbie with an unpleasant expression. "Who let you in?" The female secretary bit her lip and glanced at Bai Yunj, who was sitting on the sofa. Her face immediately turned red and pale. She felt the difference in status between her and this girl sitting on the sofa. "I'm here to look for you," the female secretary cried. When Tsing Su heard that the female secretary still dared to push the matter to him, he suppressed his anger with a fake smile. "You came to the president's office to look for me." The female secretary, get out," Tsing Su reprimanded with a dark expression. The female secretary looked at Huashidu unwillingly. In the end, her gaze landed on Bai Yunj. She did not believe that this girl's words were true. In the next moment, the female secretary left with Tsing-su. What were you talking to someone about just now? After they left, Washidu sat on the sofa again and glanced at Bae Yunja's one-page homework. I was helping brother. Bae Yunja's tone was calm, but her eyes were clear and seductive. Washidu let out a long laugh. His well-defined hand slowly tugged at his tie lazily and ostentatiously. What did Yunyun help brother with? Brother has a lot of love affairs. Bae Yunj looked at Washidu's noble and handsome appearance and her eyes curved. If I cut them off, will brother's heart ache? The man's magnetic voice was low and flirtatious. He pinched Bae Yunja's face casually. How would I dare, little kid? There was a hint of indulgence in his casual flirtatious tone. The only thing Bae Yunj could see was the mole on the tip of her throat. She was emboldened. Brother, come closer. Let's discuss something. What is it? Washidu's eyes were faint, but the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. When he lowered his eyes, his posture was so intimate and sexy that it made people blush. In fact, on the way, Tsing-su told him about the little guy's parent-teacher conference. However, at this moment, Washidu looked at Bae Yunj in front of him thoughtfully, as if he was thinking about something. Brother, seeing this, Washidu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Bae Yunj to be so hesitant because of the parent-teacher conference. However, Washidu soon realized that this young lady was clearly so bold that she was not afraid of the consequences. Suddenly, her fair and slender hand directly touched the mole on the man's Adam's apple. Washidu's gaze quickly turned dark and aggressive. He immediately grabbed that lawless hand. Bae Yunj saw the mole move along with the man's sexy Adam's apple. It made her heart tremble. Then, she looked up and sensed a dangerous emotion in the man's eyes. It was almost indiscernible. Bae Yunj, she had gone overboard. The man licked his thin red lips, his gaze fixed on her. His low and hoarse laughter tickled her eardrums. It was so sexy and made her heart itch. The darkness in his eyes made her legs go weak. Child, why are you being a hooligan? Chapter 225. Bae Yunja's brain froze. She could not calm down when she saw this scene. The man looked at her angrily and amusedly. He did not know where this young lady got the courage to touch his Adam's apple. After sorting out his emotions, Washidu leaned closer and rubbed his fingers against her face intimately. His low and magnetic voice was ambiguous and ostentatious. Do you want to see how bad I am? The light in the man's eyes was hidden. His evil and lustful demeanor made one's heart tremble. As soon as he finished speaking, the female secretary, who had pretended to come back to get something and was still unwilling to give up, happened to see this scene clearly. Her pupils constricted. President Hua, at this moment, Tsing-su arrived very quickly. Washidu had just turned to look when he heard him reprimand her. Yu Qianya, since you're restless in the headquarters, transfer to another post now. Tsing-su's expression was ugly. He did not expect this woman to be so stupid and scheming. Suddenly, Washidu, who had not cared much about this matter, spoke. There's no need to transfer. When the female secretary heard this, she was overjoyed. She thought that Washidu was starting to take pity on her. However, in the next moment, the man's tone was indifferent and still unreasonable. The Hua Corporation doesn't need such an employee. In an instant, the female secretary's face turned pale. She did not expect to end up in an even worse state. President Hua, I am just here to look for something. The female secretary was incoherent and felt cold all over. She did not expect Washidu to fire her directly. Tsing-su, are you taking the company's year-end bonus to retire in the company? The man sneered. Tsing-su. Master Du, I was wrong. I'll deduct this year's year-end bonus. If there are any employees who don't abide by the dress code next time, they will all be fired. Huashidu's heartless words made Tsing-Su's scalp tingle. Yes, Master, do please continue with your work. I'll handle the rest. After speaking, Tsing-Su glanced at the female secretary bitterly. He was prepared to transfer this group of slightly good-looking people who wanted to seduce the president. He wanted to prevent all actions that would harm his year-end bonus next year. After Tsing-Su sent them away, Bae-yunj watched as Huashidu walked to his desk and prepared to work. She could not help but ask, "Brother, are you angry?" Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at her slowly and did not say anything, so that she wouldn't dare to touch anyone's Adam's apple in the future. "Brother." At some point, Bae-yunj had dragged a chair and sat across from him. She rested her chin on her hand and smiled as she watched Huashidu review the documents. Bae-yunj leaned on the desk again and said with a smile, "Brother, but I don't have an Adam's apple for you to touch." The man's strokes were smooth and flowing. Suddenly, Bae-yunj's red lips curled up again. There seemed to be light in her eyes and her clear voice sounded like it could melt one's bones. Brother Shidu, the elegant and noble man's upturned eyes narrowed, but the ink in his hand was dizzy and almost fell. He slowly raised his eyes and looked at the little girl who was about to turn into a spirit. He couldn't do anything to her and laughed softly. Huashidu reached out with his slender hand and gently tapped her smooth forehead with the pen cap. His seductive and magnetic voice was filled with a smile as he casually imitated her tone. "Don't be coy. Brother Shidu can't take it." This seductive look was simply too alluring. Even Bae-yunj's heart beat faster when she saw this scene. She suddenly stood up, turned around, and walked to the coffee table to do her homework. Chapter 226. Seeing that the girl did not even raise her head, Huashidu smiled silently and continued to read the documents in his hand. The next day, Chu Zhixing held the handwritten translation document in his hand and took a long time to confirm that this was the translation of his application instructions. In the entire class, only Bae-yunj knew that he was going to write this. However, what made Chu Zhixing incredulous was that this time, he had written a lot of medical terms in the instructions seriously. Bae-yunj was actually able to complete this instruction in school. It did not seem to have taken much time. Chu Zhixing suppressed the surging emotions in his heart and thought of Bae-yunj's foreign language marks. With such a level of translation, how could it only be 87 marks, instantly? Chu Zhixing felt that he seemed to have unknowingly found out something incredible again. They were still in math class. The teacher slammed the podium and woke up the students who were sleeping. "Why aren't you listening to the test paper this time? You're at the bottom again, your class is at the bottom again. It's 10 marks lower than the average score of class 6. The math teacher was furious and pointed at the fill-in-the-blank question on the paper. The marking teacher said that only one person in the entire grade got the third question of the fill-in-the-blank question right. Don't you know the difference? Suddenly, Lu Yuanci said faintly, "It's luck." Luck? Then why didn't such a good thing happen to you? The math teacher hated the students in this class the most. They thought that they had a good family background and did not need to study seriously. Each one was more useless than the other. It didn't happen to me, but it didn't happen to my desk mate. Lu Yuanci glanced at Bae-yunj who only got the 3 fill-in-the-blank questions right, and his gaze became even more distant. He scored 28 marks in math, and Bae-yunj scored 30 marks. This fill-in-the-blank question was worth 2 marks each. The math teacher was speechless. The other students could not hold back their laughter. No way, right? No one in class 1 and class 2 got it right, but someone in our class got it right. The boy's tone was exaggerated. Sometimes, luck can really cause a gap. This chorus almost made the math teacher's face turn green. In the back row, UNC whispered, "This might not be luck. If one were to take a closer look at Bei Yunja's test papers, one would realize that Bei Yunja's test papers only had 8 correct answers and 2 correct fill-in-the-blank questions. The scribbles at the back were all wrong. Only the chemistry teacher was soft-hearted and gave Bei Yunj 2 points for her hard work. So what if you got this question right? Can someone from your class get full marks for the college entrance examination?" The math teacher slammed the table. Subsequently, amidst the silence, Chu Zhixing muttered again for some reason, "It's not impossible." Everyone, ever since Chu Zhixing started hanging out with Bei Yunj, not only did he dare to scold his classmates, he even dared to scold his teachers now. Bei Yunj was really something. However, everyone thought about it and realized that Chu Zhixing wasn't wrong. Chu Zhixing only lost 2 marks on his math paper. Bei Yunj was the only one who scored on the 3rd question. Thinking about it, this was the only question Chu Zhixing didn't answer correctly. The math teacher's face darkened. "Chu Zhixing, don't," suddenly. Bei Yunj suddenly curled her lips and clapped. Her voice was lazy. "Well said." After that, UNC also clapped very respectfully. Even the classroom was filled with applause. Those who didn't know better would think that they were carrying out some mysterious and grand ceremony. Chapter 227. Seeing this situation, the mathematics teacher swallowed the words that he was about to say to Chu Zhixing. Immediately, he looked at Bei Yunj with an ashen face and said in a cold voice, "Bei Yunj, don't think that. Thank you for teaching me well. Otherwise, how could little Chu be so courageous? This applause is for you. Please keep up the good work." Bei Yunja's appearance was languid, but her clear eyes only made people feel that she was sincere. The mathematics teacher was about to scold her when he forcefully swallowed back his words. His face turned green and red. In the end, he could only take a deep breath and say, "Continue the lesson." Seeing this scene, many students looked at Bei Yunj with admiration. A refined person was really different. However, UNC glanced at Bei Yunj. How could he not know that she was trying to protect Chu Zhixing? The mathematics teacher had a bad temper and liked to taunt his students. It was said that the last batch of students he taught almost committed suicide because of this. After school, Bei Yunj received a phone call. Unexpectedly, the person who called her was the director of Yunqing Hospital. "Miss Pei, there's something I have to tell you. Your family has invited Dr. Fong Gishing to come over for treatment." "Do you know about this?" the director asked carefully. He did not forget that Zhong Xinglin had said that his security system, which had been modified by Bei Yunj, was worth more than 10 million yuan. He should indeed tell Bei Yunj about this. What? The light in Bei Yunj's eyes suddenly turned cold. Didn't they say that that person did not leave the city at will? That was why Mother Qin had persuaded old Master Qin to go to the neighboring city for the surgery. It seems that your mother gave him an expensive consultation fee, so Dr. Fong made an exception and came here. The director paused and said, "However, you don't have to worry too much. Dr. Fong is indeed an expert in this field." "When did he go over?" The director said, "Yesterday. The surgery was scheduled for tomorrow." Bei Yunj's eyes flashed coldly, and his indolent tone also turned cold. "Dean, can I trouble you with something?" "Miss Pei, please speak your mind." Naturally, the hospital director did not want to offend someone like Bei Yunj. To have such achievements at such a young age. If he were to grow up in the future, he would definitely amaze everyone. "Don't let Dr. Fong perform the surgery." Bei Yunj's tone was neither fast nor slow. However, when the director heard this, he almost couldn't react. Miss Pei, he is one of the top experts in the country. The hospital director could not figure out what Bai Yunj was thinking. Since Bai Yunj had dealt with the anti-fan personally for Old Master Qin's sake, she was definitely not someone who did not care about Old Master Qin's life. I know, but my father's life is too precious. I can't accept any accidents. Bai Yunj smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Tomorrow, the doctor I arranged will contact you and prepare for the old man's operation. It took a while for the president to react. Oh. Okay. I will listen to Miss Pei. After hanging up the phone, the hospital director was in a daze for a long time. He could not understand why everyone in the Qin family thought that Bai Yunj was ignorant and incompetent. However, what made him even more emotional was that Old Master Qin, who had dominated the business world for so many years, was actually willing to put his life in the hands of a young girl. Chapter 228. After that, Bai Yunj called Old Master Qin again and told him not to accept other surgeries. Old Master Qin, who loved his grandson as much as his life, naturally agreed without hesitation. In the evening, after Stephen saw Bai Yunj's message, he called. Yunj. What happened? Someone found a doctor for my grandfather. The moment Bai Yunj said this, Stephen's temper rose uncontrollably. He chuckled in disbelief. In this day and age, there's actually someone who dares to snatch patients from me. I might need you to talk to the director of the hospital tomorrow so that they'll be more assured. Stephen replied, no problem. I'll get my assistant to contact that hospital then. Oh right. Don't worry, Yunj. I'll be able to go to Yunqing this Saturday. So soon. Bai Yunj was a little surprised. There happens to be an academic lecture. The higher-ups want me to come into contact with the new talents in your country. Stephen was smug. Wasn't it just a medical dispute with some stinky money? Did he really think he could do anything to him? At the mention of this, Bai Yunj's lips suddenly curled up. Okay, then I'll see you on Saturday. After hanging up the call, Stephen was elated and was already typing a message, planning to provoke Marcus. He asked him to sign Bai Yunj and he kept showing off. In the end, he was still the first to see Bai Yunj. At this moment, Marcus, who was sleeping in, had no idea that he had already fallen into a situation where there was a wolf in front and a tiger behind him. In the hospital. Early in the morning, Mrs. Qin stood at the door of the ward with a livid expression. Beside her, Qin Yojiao was holding her arm. Mom, don't be angry. The director didn't want to arrange it this way. Qin Yojiao's words seemed to be smoothing things over for the director, but in fact, she was directing the anger at Bai Yunj. Even the director could not help but glance at Qin Yojiao meaningfully. Mrs. Qin, don't be agitated. Miss Pei has her reasons for making such an arrangement, the director said. Mrs. Qin laughed coldly. What reason can she have? She wants the Qin family to be in chaos so that she can be happy. Mrs. Qin, even if you don't like your daughter, you shouldn't say that. The school head disagreed. Mother Qin knew that the director of Yun City Hospital was highly respected. Then, she said to him, back then, my father-in-law made a will. If he passed away, most of the benefits in the family would be given to her. Director, how could a naive girl have so many ideas to go against her parents? These words were very obscure. However, the dean could also tell that Bai Yunj wanted to kill Old Master Qin for the inheritance. Mrs. Qin, although you're Miss Pei's biological mother, she still has the right to sue you for slander. The head of the hospital's expression turned cold and this tough attitude stunned Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao. Bai Yunj had only met the director a few times. Why was even the director blindly helping her? Director, that's not what my mother meant. I hope you can understand that my mother is concerned about my grandfather's feelings. Qin Yojiao's eyes were helpless. After all, Yunji's actions are indeed very unacceptable. Dr. Fong is already one of the top experts in the country. I don't know why she insisted on finding a doctor herself. The director was also an understanding person. After hearing this, he could not help sneering in his heart. They were both daughters, but one was doted on, while the other was a true genius that no one had discovered. Chapter 229. How far did the Qin family want to go? They left their treasures at home and even hugged a rock and said it was beautiful. The dean's impression of this family was getting worse and worse. He said coldly, "Have you ever thought that maybe Miss Pei doesn't care about the Qin family's assets at all? With Bai Yunji's ability, if she really wanted to take over the Qin family, she didn't have to hurt old Master Qin at all. After all, this was someone Zhong Xinglin wanted to get to know." But, before Mrs. Qin could finish speaking, the dean interrupted her. "Old Master Qin has already agreed to this and signed a written agreement. Even if Dr. Fong arrives, I can't let him perform the surgery." After that, the dean left without even looking at him. This scene made Mrs. Qin's face turn red and livid. "Mom, don't be angry. You were too impulsive last time and made such a statement. Everyone will be biased towards her," Qin Yojiao said softly. Mrs. Qin lost control of her emotions and her eyes were frighteningly red. "Back then, I shouldn't have agreed to let them look for Bai Yunji." Hearing this, a dark glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she didn't say anything. Suddenly, "Student Qin." Qin Yojiao and Mrs. Qin turned around and saw Fong Guxing's dark expression. "Haven't you arranged it yet?" "Mrs. Qin, although I came to Yuncheng because of Student Qin, I'm very busy." Hearing this, Mrs. Qin hated Bai Yunji even more, but she could only explain anxiously, Dr. Fong, I'm sorry. My mother had already discussed this with the dean, but because someone else in the family recommended it, another doctor also wants to treat my grandfather." Hearing this, Fong Guxing felt that it was ridiculous. He sneered with a cold expression. "Even I have a 30% to 40% chance of failure for this kind of surgery. Other doctors? I'd like to see who's so confident." Qin Yojiao pretended to hesitate. "That doctor doesn't seem to be here yet, preposterous." His expression was livid as he went upstairs. "I want to know who is so extravagant." Fong Guxing was one of the top specialists in the country. In the past few years, he had indeed never encountered such treatment. Now, a person who hadn't even shown up was able to snatch away his patient. Was he treating him like a young doctor who had just made his debut? At this moment, could something have happened? Mrs. Qin frowned. Qin Yojiao laughed as a strange glint flashed past her eyes. "Mom, it's not easy for you to pressure the head of the hospital, but Dr. Fong is not someone to be trifled with in their circle. It would be best to let Fong Guxing suppress the doctor hired by Bai Yunji. When the time comes." After the surgery, old Master Qin still remembered her good points. The office. Not too long after Principal Zhang returned, he brewed a cup of chrysanthemum tea to cool down. However, when he turned around and saw the email on the computer, he was stunned. Wait a minute. Who sent this email? The dean almost doubted if he had seen wrongly. Meanwhile, the office door was suddenly pushed open, and even the sound was mixed with anger. The director jumped in fright and turned to see Fong Guxing's furious face. "Dr. Fong, I've heard a lot about you. Is it the rule of a private hospital that you don't have to knock?" Suppressing his anger, the director smiled insincerely. Chapter 230. Explanation. What explanation? The hospital director drank his chrysanthemum tea expressionlessly. Old Mr. Chin is my patient. If your hospital doesn't let me treat him, do you not take human life seriously? Fong Gishing's tone was mocking. The hospital director smiled. Of course not. It's just that old Mr. Chin signed an agreement. This operation can only be carried out if his granddaughter, Bai Yunj, agrees. Isn't Qin Yojiao his granddaughter too? How would I know? Maybe the old man thinks Miss Pei is more sensible. With that said, the hospital director poured a cup of chrysanthemum tea slowly. Dr. Fong, have a cup of tea to cool down. Fong Gishing laughed coldly. Director, I don't want to beat around the bush with you either. Since I'm in Yunqing, I have to be responsible for this patient. From what I know, Miss Pei is not even 20 years old and was cut off the moment she returned home. I really can't trust such a person's social relationships. Fong Gishing had only been told by Qin Yojiao that Bai Yunj used to live in an orphanage and cut off her relationship with Mrs. Qin when she came back. He knew nothing else. Dr. Fong, is this the only solution? The hospital director's gaze turned cold. At this moment, Fong Gishing seemed to have suddenly remembered something and said with a smile, how about this? I'll give the hospital director some face. Since Miss Pei is confident that the doctor she hired is better than me, you have to let me know who it is. Hearing this, the hospital director fell into deep thought. He could not figure out who Bai Yunj could get to treat him. Why? Are you unwilling? As the living Buddha in the patient's mouth, you won't fool around with a little girl, right? The hospital director took a deep breath and glanced at Fong Gishing, who was determined to bite the bullet. In the end, he could only agree. At the same time, the phone in the hospital director's office rang. Hello, Director Hu. I'm Miss Bai Yunj's attending physician assistant. Is it convenient for you to answer a video call? Oh, sure. The hospital director was a little dazed. He did not expect this mysterious doctor to come looking for him. But at the same time, he was a little nervous. He did not know who the Dr. Bai Yunj would be. After all, logically speaking, Fong Gishing was indeed the most suitable person to operate on old Master Qin. Miss Pei's attending physician requests a video call. Dr. Fong, do you want to come with us? The director asked. Frowning, Fong Gishing could only acquiesce. Video conference. He wondered what this person was up to. Did he know whose patient he had accidentally stumbled upon? Fong Gishing had a mocking expression on his face. He had already thought of how to mock this person. A short while later. It wasn't until the director turned on the projector used for video conferences that the two of them looked up and suddenly saw a figure eating instant noodles. The one who spoke was a very young voice. Hello. Dean Hu, can you see me? The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. Beside him, Fong Gishing sneered. Where did this random doctor come from? She was having a meeting while eating instant noodles. Why don't you finish your noodles first before we talk? The dean asked. I didn't eat noodles. After the assistant finished speaking, he turned his head and asked, who's eating noodles in the institute? Meanwhile, Stephen, who was eating instant noodles, shuddered. He slowly raised his head and saw the camera aimed at him. Stephen cursed. Bastard, who are you pointing the camera at? Stephen picked up his book, pressed down on the lid of the instant noodles, and got up to slap her. Chapter 231. When he saw Stephen's twisted expression, the hospital director knew that this conversation would not go on for the time being. Fong Gishing couldn't help but sneer. Is this the medical team Miss Pei found? Could it be that Miss Pei spent some money casually and found some random team overseas? The hospital director frowned when he heard these harsh words. However, before he could retort, the hospital director suddenly felt that the person eating the instant noodles looked familiar. He seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Have I seen him somewhere before? The hospital director muttered to himself. Fong Gushing couldn't help but laugh out loud. He felt that the hospital director was saving Bai Yunj some face. Hospital director, you're a reputable person in the country. How could you know this group of people from a medical institution who might not have broken the law? The hospital director frowned when he heard this. Dr. Fong, don't be so rude. Then, just as Fong Gushing was about to continue speaking, the person on the other end of the screen returned. He wiped the soup off his beard and placed the instant noodles under the desk without batting an eyelid. The hospital director was speechless, he had already seen everything clearly. Was there a need to hide it? Hello, I'm Stephen, the director of Country R's Medical Research Institute. I sent you an email this morning, but you didn't reply. That's why I'm anxious. As soon as he finished speaking, Fong Gushing, who had been mocking him, froze. The hospital director jerked his head up and stared at Stephen's face. Our Country R's Medical Research Institute. Mr. Stephen. The hospital director's eyes widened. He finally realized where he had seen this person before. Wasn't this the person who had stood on the stage to speak at the academic exchange conference? Bai Yunj had actually managed to invite Mr. Stephen. This immortal status in the medical industry was worlds apart from Fong Gushing's, the hospital director thought of the email just now. At first, he had wondered if it was a scam and hadn't dared to think in that direction. However, Mr. Stephen was actually the attending Dr. Bai Yunj had invited. Fong Gushing, who was standing beside him, obviously recognized the famous person in front of him. His face was pale and he stood there silently, as if he was part of the background. May I ask how Miss Bai Yunj managed to invite you? The principal couldn't help but ask. Isn't this network too wide? Even the big shots from overseas were not spared. It's mainly because my old friends introduced me. Stephen was obviously very happy at the mention of Bai Yunj. The joy on her face made the director of the hospital inexplicably suspicious. It was as if Bai Yunj was the important connection they wanted. This situation simply made the dean feel extremely complicated. A short while later, the director slowly turned his head and looked at Fong Gushing expressionlessly. Why aren't you saying anything? He couldn't help but feel a little nervous facing a big shot alone. However, Fong Gushing's face instantly turned green and red. You are. Stephen looked at him. Fong Gushing said stiffly, My name is Fong Gushing. I was Elder Qin's attending physician in the beginning. Listen to Yen. Suddenly, Stephen understood. He smiled amiably. I see. Actually, this surgery isn't too difficult. I'm fully confident that I can do it well. If Dr. Fong can do it, I can talk to Miss Pei. Hearing this, Fong Gushing's legs almost gave out. He didn't have the guts to make such a guarantee. Chapter 232. Mr. Stephen, I'm just here to confirm it. But since it's you, there's naturally no problem. Hearing Fong Gushing's 180-degree change in attitude, the director's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. Even if he eats instant noodles during meetings, it can't stop his professionalism. Dr. Fong, don't you think so? The director asked with a smile in his native language. Fong Gushing's expression was terrible and he could not say a word. His mind was in a mess. He never thought that the person Bai Yunj found would be Mr. Stephen. Weren't Qin Yojiao and Mrs. Qin playing with him? Stephen's ability could be said to be the ceiling of this professional field. In the end, this mother and daughter pair still dared to come to him for treatment? Did they want to see him embarrass himself on purpose? At the door of the ward, Bai Yunj saw Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao sitting together, looking like a warm mother and daughter pair. But very quickly, her eyes glanced over lazily and she walked towards the ward with a basket of fruits. Bai Yunj. Mrs. Qin stared at her with a cold expression. Mrs. Qin, I'm not in the mood to listen to you. Bai Yunj turned around carelessly and glanced at her with a faint smile. Then, before Mrs. Qin could say anything, Bai Yunj pushed the door open and entered. Mrs. Qin was stunned and gritted her teeth even more. Mom, Dr. Fong is back. Qin Yojiao pulled Mrs. Qin and reminded her softly. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin immediately changed her attitude and looked at Fong Gushing gently. Dr. Fong, have you talked to the director? I'm sorry to trouble you to have to settle such a small matter. After this operation is fine, who knew? Fong Gushing interrupted her and sneered. Mrs. Qin, you really think highly of me. These words made Mrs. Qin unable to react. Why did she feel that Fong Gushing's attitude towards them seemed to have become colder? What do you mean, Dr. Fong? Miss Pei has already found an attending doctor. Why do you have to worry so much? With that said, Fong Gushing suppressed the urge to scold Mrs. Qin on the spot and knocked on the door of the ward before entering. Only Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao were left standing at the door with ugly expressions. In the ward. Miss Pei. Fong Gushing took a deep breath and respectfully said. Listen to Yen. Bai Yunj glanced at Fong Gushing and asked casually, who are you? Nice to meet you. I'm Fong Gushing. Fong Gushing didn't mind Bai Yunj's lukewarm attitude at all, but old Master Qin, who was next to him, had a strange expression on his face. Last time, he had also heard Mother Qin's call to Fong Gushing. This person was extremely arrogant and had a bad attitude. But now, Fong Gushing's tone when he spoke to Bai Yunj seemed to be carefully trying to please her. This wasn't an illusion, right? Why are you looking for me? Bai Yunj was not interested in Fong Gushing and did not even bat an eyelid. This is my name card. If you need anything in the future, you can contact me. Fong Gushing put his business card in front of Bai Yunj and added, I can also come to Yunqing without charging you extra. Bai Yunj raised an eyebrow and glanced at him. Okay, thank you for your hard work, Dr. Fong. Seeing that Bai Yunj did not hold a grudge against him, Fong Gushing heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Miss Pei, you must be joking. It's my honor. Chapter 233. Even after Fong Gushing left, old Master Qin was still staring at Bai Yunj in a daze. He felt that this granddaughter of his was a little unfamiliar. In the past, Gu was introverted and did not have many friends. However, the current Gu had a strong youthful aura and always gave off a high-spirited feeling. If it wasn't for this face, he would have suspected that the person in front of him was Gu. Qin Yojiao, who was outside the door, stopped Fong Gushing, wanting to know what had happened. However, Fong Gushing only left with a cold expression and did not say anything to her. Did Bai Yunj say something to Dr. Fong? Mrs. Qin clenched her fists and the first person she thought of was Bai Yunj. Mom, don't be anxious about this. Since she wants the doctor she knows to operate on Grandpa so much, let's wait and see. A dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she clenched her fists tightly. Jiao Jiao, I've wronged you. Mrs. Qin took Qin Yojiao's hand. Initially, Jiao Jiao had already found a doctor. She didn't know why Bai Yunj was so stubborn and insisted on finding another doctor herself. Mom, I don't care about this. I believe Yunj is doing this for Grandpa's own good. Qin Yojiao lowered her head and forced a smile. It's just that a few days ago, I submitted some documents to second brother's office and was eliminated in the first round. Second brother seems to have really changed. With Qin Yojiao's appearance and popularity, it was impossible for her to be eliminated in the first round. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Qin's temper flared. All of them are really rebelling. If it wasn't for old Master Qin inside, she wanted to question Bai Yunj now. What kind of magic potion did she give Qin Yu and Qin Lang? These two people were willing to sever ties with their family to protect her. Jiao Jiao, don't worry. They will still find out how good you are in the end. Mrs. Qin caressed her head lovingly. Qin Yojiao hugged Mrs. Qin. Mom, I only have you now. Silly child. At noon, Bai Yunj returned to school and cancelled her morning break. When she walked in from the classroom, she heard several girls discussing some emotional topics. Bai Yunj could only hear the boys' Adam's apple. Inexplicably, Bai Yunj suddenly thought of the situation last time. When class was about to start, Lu Yuanci came back with a basketball. Desk mate, Bai Yunj suddenly said. Lu Yuanci's eyes were somewhat guarded. What's wrong? If a guy's Adam's apple is touched, will he be very angry? It was also the first time Bai Yunj saw Huashidu's gaze. Hearing this, Lu Yuanci slowly relaxed, then sat on the chair and chuckled. How could I? What's there to be angry about? Lu Yuanci asked. Then why? Was he angry? Before Bai Yunj could finish her question, she felt Lu Yuanci's gaze on her. You touched someone else's Adam's apple? Lu Yuanci asked. Bai Yunj just looked at him without saying anything. Seeing this, Lu Yuanci denied himself and laughed. No, why did you touch someone else's Adam's apple for no reason? Bai Yunj was silent for a moment before she asked, will it be very serious? Lu Yuanci looked at her strangely and snorted lazily. Not really. It's just that it's easy for something to happen. What happened? Seeing that Bai Yunj was very concerned about this question, Lu Yuanci thought for a moment and changed his wording. You will want to have a new life with the person who touches your Adam's apple. Chapter 234. Bai Yunj froze. Lu Yuanci warned, don't do anything rash. Men are bad in this aspect. Most men might not reject such a thing even if they didn't like it. Suddenly, Bai Yunj seemed to understand why Huashidu's voice was a little hoarse at that time. Lu Yuanci said, Desk mate, your homework. Bai Yunj pushed the homework to him and turned around to calm himself down. Lu Yuanci was speechless. As expected of his desk mate, he was very cold. After school, Bai Yunj went to the A.M. Institute first. Just as Bai Yunj was teaching his two interns, a middle-aged man in a suit barged in. Is Miss Pei here? Bai Yunj raised his eyebrows and saw that his eyes were calm. After glancing at the two interns, he walked straight to the camera. I'm Delaney. Miss Pei should have some impression of me, right? The contract we discussed last time. At this moment, the door was pushed open again and Marcus's voice sounded. Delaney. He had finally stabilized Bai Yunj, but Delaney was looking for trouble at this time. Delaney, I'm warning you, don't anger me. Marcus also walked in front of Delaney, his face livid. Seeing this, Delaney was a little surprised. He had heard that Marcus treated the new member as a treasure, but he did not expect it to be to this extent. It looks like Bai Yunj is really important to our nation's computing institute. Delaney smiled and his gaze landed on the screen where Bai Yunj's face could not be seen. Miss Pei, can't you show your true face and talk? As soon as he finished speaking, Tich and Jasmine, who had been following Bai Yunj in class, held their breaths. They also wanted to know what their teacher looked like. There's nothing wrong with that. Bai Yunj's tone was lazy. Then, the camera panned and everyone saw Bae Yunja's eyes clearly. The girl had black hair and red lips. Her gaze was cold and her eyes were flirtatious with a faint smile. However, when she raised her eyebrows, she had a rebellious youthful vibe. She was unbelievably young and beautiful. Teacher, the two interns beside him were shocked. Their teacher was actually so young. He was too good-looking. If you want to sign the right to use it, look for Marcus to draw up a contract. Bae Yunj said indifferently. Are you Miss Pei? Delaney found it hard to believe that someone who could create such a project would be so young. He had seen many young geniuses, but he had never seen someone like Bae Yunj, who was aiming for the Busaka Prize at such a young age. Is there anything else? Bae Yunj looked up. When these words fell into the ears of the two interns, they automatically thought of Bae Yunja's daily sentence, do you have any more questions? This kind of precise control, impatient and threatening tone simply reminded them of the nightmares they had in class. Miss Pei, this should be your first time signing a contract, right? With such a price, very few people are willing to cooperate, Delaney said. Bae Yunj chuckled. After all, there aren't that many smart people. Delaney was speechless. He seemed to have been mocked. Miss Pei, if I don't do this project, who would dare to do it? Marcus and the two interns beside him felt their scalps go numb when they heard that Delaney dared to threaten Bae Yunj directly. Delaney, is there a lack of people in your circle who gamble with their lives? Bae Yunj teased. At the same time, Delaney subconsciously raised his head and froze. You. Chapter 235. Delaney clenched his fists and stared at Bae Yunja's face. Was this really a young lady in her 20s? Why was she more intelligent than those old researchers? It's up to you whether you want this contract or not. I've also said that after the project is completed, any company that wants the right to use it will have to pay double the fee. Bae Yunj was neither cold nor warm. Delaney was speechless. Forget about doing research. She would be a rare talent if she went back to the company with him. I'll sign it. Delaney gritted his teeth and only said these two words. As for the others, they quickly turned to look at the livid Delaney. He was going to sign it so soon. Didn't he still think that it was too expensive and that a dignified CEO was acting shamelessly? Yes, close the door. I have to go to class. Bae Yunj nodded without any psychological burden. Delaney, who wanted to curse, was speechless. In the end, Delaney still left weakly. Marcus, who was at the side, could not bear it and patted his shoulder to comfort him. There will be many opportunities to work together in the future. Delaney, who was stabbed in the back, almost had a distorted expression. Then, Tich said carefully, Teacher. What's wrong? Bae Yunj flipped through the information and frowned. Why did he take so long to explain such a small amount of content? That Delaney just now is my father. Tich braced himself and admitted. Bae Yunj paused and looked up at him. You want to go home with him? Tich shook his head frantically. No. Teacher, I wanted to come to the research institute myself. I was afraid that you would feel pressured. Tich's voice became softer and softer. What if the teacher thought that he was here to be a spy? Bae Yunj did not even raise his head. Pressure. Write fewer strange reports and hand them to me. I'll feel less pressure. Tich was speechless. Jasmine was speechless. Sorry, it was their fault. All right, let's continue with class. She glanced at them with a deep gaze. Bae Yunj felt that he was still too young and had not suffered the hardships of society. He actually agreed to Marcus's request to teach an intern and Marcus's little niece. At night, Bei Yunj came back late and did not see the man. Normally, Bei Yunj would have asked Auntie Meow first. But now, when Bei Yunj thought about touching his Adam's apple, she did not know how to face Washidu. Bei Yunj, what a bad move. She calmly took a deep breath and went upstairs. In front of the desk, Bei Yunj casually combed her black hair with a pen. Only a small strand of hair was left in front of her ears. How would I know that there was such a thing? Bei Yunj couldn't help muttering to herself as her slender fingers twirled the pen. But in the end, she still touched him. An hour later, Bei Yunj went downstairs to get some water. She didn't expect to see the man standing sideways at the long table pouring water. Brother. It was Bei Yunj's first time seeing Washidu wearing a black cotton shirt. It was very textured. The shirt was neatly tucked into his suit pants. His shoulders were wide and his waist was narrow. His long legs were too abstinent. However, at this moment, the man's eyes were deep. His posture was lazy and sexy. The 2 buttons on his collar were loose, revealing his exquisite collarbone. His entire person was lustful and frivolous. It was simply a criminal temptation. Ha! Chapter 236. Why was his hair wet? Bei Yunj saw that Washidu didn't say anything and looked at him again. The man's gaze was different too. The light in his eyes was completely hidden. It was ambiguous and dark, as if he was blatantly seducing her. Bei Yunj's gaze seemed to have been burned. She quickly looked away and asked, "Why is your hair wet? Did you drink?" He still smelled of alcohol. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously and suddenly remembered something. The last time at the Qin family's old residence, Washidu seemed to have smelled of alcohol too, and he looked a little strange. Could it be that he couldn't drink? Don't tell me you fought with someone. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes moved. Before she could finish speaking, the man suddenly leaned closer. He leaned over and looked straight at her. He said casually, "It's little Yun." Bei Yunj's heart suddenly beat faster when she was suddenly stared at like that. Forget it. Bei Yunj didn't intend to ask further. She pulled the man's sleeve and wanted to bring him upstairs. Who knew? The man suddenly grabbed her wrist with one hand and leaned lazily on the long table. He reached out to her head again. "You..." Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, Washidu suddenly took off the fountain pen that was coiled around Bei Yunj's hair. At that moment, Bei Yunj's black hair scattered, but her sparkling eyes were staring at him. The man seemed to be in a good mood. His eyes darkened even more, and his magnetic and pleasant laughter sounded in a low voice. "Call me brother and I'll return it to you." Bei Yunj looked at his wet hair and said gently, "Are you going to take a shower later?" Suddenly, Bei Yunj was gently knocked on the head. "You only want to take advantage of me all day long." The handsome and noble man's posture was light and lazy. His voice was long, as if he wanted to seduce her. Bei Yunj was speechless. Hence, Bei Yunj's good temper in her life was almost used up today. In the bedroom, after Bei Yunj blew Washidu's hair, she could tell that Washidu's voice was a little hoarse and magnetic. It seemed that he had caught a cold. He didn't know what was going on today. Bei Yunj recalled the scene just now and her eyelids twitched. "Brother, why do you like to bully people after drinking?" The man didn't answer. It also attracted Bei Yunj's attention. "Brother, I'll get you some hot water to take a bath. Don't go out." Bei Yunj softened her tone again. "You've caught a cold. You have to get better soon, right?" The man's eyes fell on her without an inch of avoidance. Seeing her bright eyes looking at him, his eyes unconsciously darkened. "Yes." Washidu's voice was low and magnetic. Seeing this, before Bei Yunj could breathe a sigh of relief, she suddenly heard a voice coming from downstairs. It was very light, but it gradually became clear. Shidu. Shidu. Old Madame Huo must have gone upstairs. When Bei Yunj heard this, she was about to walk out of the door when she suddenly remembered that this was Huo Shidu's bedroom. Bei Yunj was speechless. At this time, if she went out, old Madame Huo might get engaged to her brother at the end of the year. Thinking of old Madame Huo's urgent mood, Bei Yunj felt that she could not let old Madame Huo see her in the bedroom. However, she did not know what would happen if she left Huo Shidu alone here. Bei Yunj turned her head and looked at Huo Shidu for a long time. She only thought of one idea. After the old madam went upstairs, Chapter 237. Alas, let's go find sister. Mo pulled Alas and discussed in a childish voice. Alas tilted his head as if he didn't understand anything and just circled around his little master. Grandma, I'm going to find sister. Mo held Alas' hand and said happily. Go, go. Old Madame Huo frowned. After turning on the lights, she only saw the hairdryer on the table. She muttered to herself, why isn't he here? He should have just come back. Old Madame Huo muttered in the bedroom and walked around. At this moment, Bei Yunj was huddled in the corner of the closet. Her entire body was a little stiff, but she couldn't move for fear of being discovered. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't understand what the person who hid in the closet was thinking. Wasn't he sullen? Until Bei Yunj's ears suddenly felt an itchy heat. The man's low and magnetic voice was lazy and sexy. It made her ears burn. Yun, sit on brother's lap. Bei Yunj's entire body froze, and her heart beat uncontrollably fast. Brother, you. Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, the man suddenly pulled her over. Her whole body was trapped in his arms, sitting on his lap. The pleasant cold fragrance around her was mixed with the smell of alcohol. The quiet and secluded space was filled with a sense of taboo. Before she could break free, she heard a low laughter in her ear again. It was ostentatious and ambiguous, making one's heart tremble. Yun, do you want brother to recover faster from his cold? This time, all of Bei Yunj's calmness and self-control were shattered. This man today was simply asking for her life. Not long after, Mo returned. Grandma, sister isn't here either. Mo pursed his lips and said. It wasn't easy for him to come and see his sister. All right, baby. Maybe your brother took sister Pei out to play. Old Madame Huo coaxed, let's go back first, okay? But I want to wait for sister. Mo hesitated. Suddenly, Alas broke free from Mo's hand and ran towards the closet. He held a floral ribbon in his mouth and pulled it out happily. It was as if he had discovered something incredible. Inside the closet, Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She could only take a deep breath and take off her coat. She was completely unaware that in this narrow and dim environment, the man's eyes fell on her without hiding anything, and his eyes gradually darkened. Mo, what is Alas talking about? Old Madame Huo was puzzled. I'll go take a look. Mo quickly ran over and found that Alas was pulling a floral ribbon. It looked a little like the belt on Sister Pei's clothes. Mo. What is Eris doing? After old Madame Huo asked, she was about to walk over again. Grandma, it's nothing. Momo blinked and glanced at the wardrobe. Finally, she secretly pulled the tape from Alyssa's mouth. Eris, we should go home. There's roast chicken tonight. After Mo finished speaking, Alyssa gave up on the idea of the belt. It happily rubbed its little master's cheek. Seeing that old Madame Hua had finally left, Bei Yunj also breathed a sigh of relief. She liked Mo more and more. Fortunately, there was Mo otherwise. If she was discovered, she was really afraid that old Madame Hua would contact her old master on the spot. However, when Bei Yunj thought of this man's actions just now, her eyelids could not help but twitch. You did it on purpose. Bei Yunj stared at Huashidu and said expressionlessly. The man leaned lazily against the wooden board. Ha! You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.